This Isekai'd dumbass got dropped into a game and is living in pure delusion that he could save the world and his own life by adopting 5 future world-ending bosses, hoping to just sit on his ass and do nothing forever. But thanks to his shitty communication skills, he accidentally turned those traumatized kids into a crazy slaying cult. The story begins with a terrifying prophecy. The Federation Kingdom of the East has only 10 years left before it faces complete destruction. This disaster will be caused by the 5 great sins, 5 individuals who possess overwhelming power capable of bringing about the end of the world. Determined to change this fate, a man buried under mountains of paperwork takes on the role of their guardian. His job is to watch over and guide the quiet, troubled children who are destined to grow into these world-ending monsters. As he looks at the huge responsibility before him, he can't help but wonder how a seemingly ordinary job turned into such a massive mission to save the world. Lenka to a super fancy mansion room where our boy is chilling. He used to be a totally cooked corporate slave working 78 hours a week. Now he is reborn as a rich noble in a fantasy world. You would think this is a massive win, but there is a catch. He is holding a big book totally upside down, while his butler calls him out. It turns out his new body is completely illiterate with 0 special skills. The butler calls him for dinner, and he demolishes a massive feast. Then a couple of cute maids drag him to the bath to wash him up. He is chilling in the tub getting a sweet back rub, living his best lazy trust fund life. Looks like the shorty is literally getting his joystick scrubbed by the help and he thinks he won the lottery. But then the maid drops a bomb on his vibe. She tells him his big brothers Leo and Tonio are coming home tomorrow. He completely freezes up as he realizes he is in the Palazzo family. She dunks his head under the water and starts screaming his lungs out while the maids panic. He realizes he is trapped inside a game called Psychedelia. Back in his slave days, he used to grind this game on his handheld and PC. It is a crazy turn-based RPG where the 5 great sins always show up and completely trash the world no matter what route you take. The bosses are a stacked lineup of absolute menaces like wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession. They ruin the kingdom, the cities, and every single noble in sight. And out of all the families, his new family is the very first one to get clapped by the bosses. His older brothers are literally the king of prostitution and the drug king. They are just mob trash that get wiped out in a basic side quest. The screen shows the game version of him standing outside his spooky new house. The real him is standing in the courtyard realizing he is playing the role of Alan Palacio, a totally useless background loser. He goes back to his room and flops flat on his bed, begging to go back to his terrible desk job. He is crying and whining about dying in 10 years while tears stream down his face. But then his brain actually starts working and he realizes something huge. Knowing the game's future is the ultimate cheat code. He sits up holding a blue flower and hatches a plan to stop the world from ending. He decides to adopt the 5 great sin bosses while they are still just kids and fix them. Scene transition to 2 months later. He is chilling by a sunny window. His personal knight Yibin explains how he rescued some orphans from a crazy human testing lab in the East. He put a kid named Utia in charge of the group. Alan tells him that he is doing a great job. Yibin smiles a little bit and says it is hard to tell if he is happy since his face never changes. Alan grabs a mirror and squishes his own cheeks. He complains that his new face is totally dead and shows 0 emotion. Even though his face is locked, he knows Yibin is a top-tier loyal unit who will never betray him. Yibin brings up the raid they did to save the girl named Utia. A flashback shows Yibin finding her chained up in a dark cell with other kids. She was so crazy strong he did not understand why she just sat there and got captured so easily. Back in the office, Yubian asks Alan why he did not bring her home to the mansion. Alan leans back and acts like this is all part of a massive master plan. Stating he knows exactly who she is from playing the game. She is Yucha Bloodia from the grotesque blood tribe, and she is the one who becomes the sin of wrath. She looking like an absolute demon with sharp teeth. She is a total monster destined to kill thousands of people. But Alan figures if he leaves her alone and gives her a peaceful life, she will not go crazy and destroy everything. He smiles at his desk, thinking he just casually disabled a massive landmine. He tells Yubian they are leaving her there because the time is not right. Yubian looks totally shook by how deep his boss is thinking. Alan tells him to keep it a secret and gives him a letter with a red wax seal to deliver to Utia. He says it is just a nice get-well card to help her calm down after the harsh experiments. Yebon takes the letter, acting like it is a massive honor, and rides off on a horse. Transition back to Alan in his room. He hopes his little trick actually works to calm her down. He remembers a secret phrase from the game that a weird archbishop used to try and calm the wrath boss. Flashback shows the priest chanting the spell. It failed in the game, but he thinks it might work 10 years early. He stretches his arms, feeling like a total genius for fixing one of the world's biggest problems. He figures her crazy cult mindset makes her easy to trick with some fancy religious words. In a dark alleyway where Yuya is holding the letter, Yubin watches her from the shadows. Yubin is sweating because her magic pressure is insane, noting she looks completely empty inside. Then she speaks up and asks if Lord Alan was really the one who sent the letter. She suddenly snaps and red and purple energy explodes everywhere around her. Yubin starts freaking out because she is flexing master-level magic like it is nothing. She asks why Alan did not bring her to his side. Yeben stutters in terror and repeats what Alan said about the time not being right. The moment she hears that, her eyes go wide and she blushes like an absolute yandere psycho. She hugs the letter tight and thinks this is some secret promise only her true master could know. Yui is terrified in the background while she understands her master wish and smiles like a complete lunatic. The scene cuts back to Alan fast asleep in his bed, drooling and hugging his pillow. He thinks he had a massive big brain day. Alan scours the family library in search of answers, but comes up empty. Yuvian reports a successful raid on an illegal slave market, securing the second child on their checklist. Our boy panics, demanding absolute confirmation that the rescue squad treated the kid with utmost respect. Before they can celebrate, the door blasts open and Tonio Palacio, the second son, struts in to use Alan's face as a welcome mat. Tonio mocks the protagonist for pretending to read, establishing himself as the classic sibling menace. Alan decides fighting back is a terrible idea and tries to excuse himself from the room. Tonio rewards this submission with another swift boot to the dirt. A flying knife embeds itself in the furniture, announcing the arrival of Leo Palacio, the eldest brother. Leo complains about the noise and orders everyone out, sparking an instant turf war. Tonio insults Leo's hygiene. Leo insults Tonio's drug habits, and the two maniacs cross blades. These two degenerates are fated to ruin the family, running criminal cartels of narcotics and flesh while fighting a bloody war for succession. Realizing his older brothers are massive walking death flags, Alan decides his ultimate survival strategy is to remain a useless coward. He scrambles away on all fours while the siblings tear the study apart with explosive magic. Dr. Shiji are back in the safety of another room. Our hero collapses in a panting heap. As Alan catches his breath from his pathetic escape, Yaban drops the ominous detail that the rescued second child seems unusual. Yaban questions the sudden competence of his master. He wonders how a man who struggles to look after himself manages to orchestrate international rescue missions, saving children from secret human experiments and illegal slave markets. Yaban dismisses the contradiction, chalking it up to his boss being a complete weirdo. He confirms they dumped the rescued kid at an orphanage, noting Alan called the boy unusual. In our hero's head, that is the understatement of the century. This kid is the future second boss of the game Deus Macallion, destined to become the sin of sloth. After surviving abuse and slavery in the kingdom of Callion, Sloth goes nuclear, traumatizing players by annihilating entire kingdoms with relentless vengeance. That is the exact reason Alan hammered Yuban to treat the kid like fragile glass. Alan sips his tea and explains that keeping the boy just was not the right move yet. When Yui asks us about the letter sent to Yudia, Alan claims it was just some basic banter asking her to look after the frail new kid. Meanwhile, Yudi intercepts the broken boy in the woods and interprets Alan's request as a twisted divine command. She recognizes his scars as the work of the Black Goat and congratulates him on being chosen by her master. Unleashing a massive storm of magic, she binds the boy in glowing strings and forces a supernatural awakening. She promises him absolute revenge, provided he swears total obedience to Alan. The protagonist's harmless pen pal notes somehow birthed a fanatical cult initiation. Alan decides to send a warm reply to Yudia, starting a steady pen pal correspondence. The next day, Yuban bursts into the room to announce Tonio is dead. Attending the funeral, our hero stands bored, realizing this premature demise from an accidental fall breaks the original game script. Spotting Leo grinning at the ceremony, Alan connects the dots. The eldest brother orchestrated the assassination to secure the title of heir. Rather than get tangled in the dark fantasy family drama, Alan vows to ignore the succession war and focus on hunting down the remaining 5 great sins. The year passes. With the sibling rivalry snuffed out, Leo takes total control of the drug trade, stabilizing the Palacio family. Alan continues building rapport with Yudia through letters. He reads her latest update detailing the orphanage kids enjoying war games and sword dances. The protagonist interprets this as normal playtime, missing the massive red flag when Yuiban reports suspicious spikes in donations to the small orphanage. Our boy remains oblivious to the fact he is running a miniature cult of child soldiers. Yuiban shifts the topic, revealing the Information Guild secured a clue regarding the third boss. Olin celebrates this massive win, kicking back to soak in what he assumes is a calm, peaceful evening. His delusion shatters as a violent, blood-curdling scream erupts elsewhere. At the Margot drug distribution site, Leo's henchmen brag about their booming criminal organization and generous pay. Their celebration dies instantly when they stumble upon a massacre of their own men. The surviving thugs panic in absolute terror as invisible forces hijack their bodies, forcing their own hands to plunge swords into their throats. Emerging from the carnage, the sloth boy manipulates glowing magical strings, treating the brutal mass suicide like an entertaining puppet show, while noting the growth of their twisted sponsorships. He questions Yudi if massacring these drug runners actually serves their ultimate goal of revenge. Yui dismisses his doubts, declaring they are preparing the foundation to ensure the throne is spotless for Alan. When he assumes command, fully indoctrinated into the cult of our boy, Yui embraces the night sky and vows their group will act as his absolute blade, ensuring all things conform to his divine will. 2 full years have passed since our boy started swapping letters with Yui Atia. He is sweating bullets in the mansion's backyard when Yahello pops up like a total jump scare. The loyal knight confirms the fifth target was safely dumped at the orphanage, meaning the entire roster of world-ending menaces is officially secured. Allen aggressively force-feeds Yahello a massive tower of macarons as a reward for grinding his bones to dust. He thinks his master plan is absolutely cooking. Yahello points out our hero looks totally miserable for a guy who just won big. Allen forces the creepiest, most unhinged smile possible to prove he is thrilled. He flops into the grass, feeling blessed that he snatched up all the future villains before their tragic backstories broke them. Yahello hands over the latest mail, confirming the traumatized kids are actually healing up nicely. Our protagonist assumes Yui is just a natural caretaker, completely blind to the fact she is molding them into a literal hit squad. The letter from Yui claims the kids are growing up perfectly normal in their sunny garden. Yui asks when Allen is going to finally meet his adopted squad. Our boy immediately rejects the idea, preferring to keep his personal joystick far away from any crazy danger zones. He decides to dodge them for another 5 years. Switching gears, Yui asks him about a mysterious group called Blue Moon. It is a new vigilante crew wiping out criminal trash, and since they kill nobles, then Allen is spooked enough to make Yahello sleep in the next room. Cut to the dead of night at the orphanage, where the real Blue Moon is holding a secret cult meeting. Yahello demands an activity report from her fully radicalized child soldiers. The Fox Girl Silong boasts about severing slave trader heads in the north, burying the bodies so clean nobody noticed. The Greed Kid Ryan confirms the South's illegal labs are crushed. The Sin of Purity named Radun casually mentions shredding an annoying group called Avalon into absolute mist. Yui praises the squad, declaring all their bloody work is for the absolute glory of the Great Moon, which is literally just Alon, but she drops a massive problem on the table. The squad found documents proving the Count's eldest son Leo was plotting to poison their beloved master. Her eyes glow with straight-up possessive murder intent. Fast forward 2 years and the old Count finally kicks to death from massive drug abuse. At the Count's funeral, nobles whisper in absolute terror about Blue Moon wiping out entire factions overnight. Alon realizes the vibes are completely cooked and immediately packs his bags. He drags Yahello on a carriage ride down south to a tiny village called Rodmill to lay low and fry up some toast. But just 3 days later, he is dragged right back to the blood-soaked mansion. Another funeral just dropped, and this time it is for Leo. Our hero stares at the casket, totally clueless, noting Leo got his heart violently pierced by a blade. He wonders who could possibly have clapped his terrible brother. Suddenly, he makes eye contact with a random noble, and the entire crowd violently flinches and parts stands there, completely lost in the sauce. A while back on the day our boy left for his vacation town, Yahello asks if a bigger city would be better. Allen shuts that down fast, knowing this village is the ultimate safe zone to keep his neck intact. He thinks this random village has 0 gang connections, making it the perfect spot to live that lazy rich life. Yahello side-eyes him, claiming he is not falling for his fake innocent act now. Our protagonist sweats and tells his knight to drop the subject. The scene jumps to the main mansion as the carriage rolls out of the gates. Leo, the older brother, watches from a balcony and debates if he should murder Alon. He decides the kid is too useless to matter now, but tells his trusted right-hand man Alman to follow him. Alman asks if he should kill the kid, confusing Leo since his loyal dog never asks questions. Before Leo can blink, Alman pulls a blade and slashes his own screaming boss. Alman stands over the bleeding noble and drops the act, admitting he loves playing war games. A massive plot twist hits as Alman is revealed to be a secret member of the Blue Moon cult. A flashback shows the unhinged cult claiming they are the Great Moon's sword and are cleared to kill any threats. Alman slaughters the rest of the guards in the room without breaking a single sweat. He tells the dying Leo it is a pity, but the Great Moon gave him a chance. On the other side, Alman wakes up to a bright and sunny morning at his new vacation house. Our boy is living his best life, eating toast and thinking he is safe from any danger. But his peaceful vacation ends in 3 days when Yahello hands him an urgent letter. The message announces Leo is dead and demands our hero return to the estate. Allen travels back home to find every single noble sweating and bowing to him in total terror. He pulls Yahello aside and demands to know why everyone is treating him like a mob boss. Yahello whispers that Allen is the sole person who benefits from the murder, giving him a perfect cover. Yahello praises his master, assuming Allen planned this to become the supreme heir with a secret assassin squad. Allen panics and asks if the Blue Moon group did this, but Yahello says the killers used swords and left a huge bloodbath. Our boy sweats bullets, realizing he is catching a massive stray case. The scene cuts to Utia asking her squad of child soldiers if they left any evidence behind. Writing confirms they left nothing, while the Sealang giggles about leaving a huge pile of bodies. However, Deus reports they have arrived at the enemy base, counting 486 enemy forces left. Using his glowing strings, Rad announces they sliced every single man in half like their boss ordered. Udia flashes a terrifying crimson smile as the entire massive Avalon gang is turned to dust. Radan slides up to Udia with a fresh folder, warning her that the cleanup is not finished. He hands over documents proving that a whole new batch of nobles is connected to the destroyed group. He points out that the Udia Duchy family is neck-deep in the messy drama, Yudia's eyes glow with pure crazy obsession as she looks back at her squad of mini-death machines. She tells them they know what to do, and the boy smirks as they prepare to slaughter the next bloodline. Yui glares at her squad and demands they keep their mouths shut. She orders Seo Lang and the rest of the crew to handle a messy cover-up. Raydan flexes his glowing blade and agrees to crush the problem quietly. Yui smirks and grills Rain about the Information Guild. Rain confirms the guild bought their lie and completely cleared their name. Alon remains clueless while the underworld thinks he is a legendary swordmaster. Yui commands her team to keep Alon entirely in the dark. She claims this mission is not a direct order because her master was personally targeted. Deus grips his blade and firmly declares they are nothing but Alan's weapon. Yui preaches that a sword has zero right to think and must only strike when told. She flashes back to their master and orders the squad to never disappoint him. Meanwhile, our boy is sweating buckets in his office, completely terrified of getting exposed. Yui smiles like an absolute psycho, swearing everything they do is for his glory. Later, Alan collapses onto his desk, absolutely buried in a massive pile of paperwork. With Leo dead way ahead of schedule, he is forced to run the entire family business. His workers are terrified, sweating through their clothes because they think he is a ruthless crime boss. Our hero just wants to be a lazy rich kid, but his staff works double time to avoid getting assassinated. Meanwhile, in the living room, Alan practices fire magic while Yuban acts totally shocked by his rapid progress. Yuban praises him for hitting the second magic tier in just 2 years without a master. Alan thinks he is finally cooking with precise mana control, but the reality hits him hard. Realizing his magic is completely half-baked, he decides to find another survival route. Yuban interrupts his tragic breakdown to hand him a fancy dance invitation. Our boy rolls up to a massive southern networking ball looking absolutely exhausted. He decides to build some alliances, since he is about to officially become the Count. But the second he walks toward the crowd, every single noble flinches and scatters like bugs. Yuban tries to comfort him, but Alan knows his family's toxic reputation makes him the ultimate black sheep. He targets a random noblewoman and drops a smooth compliment about her unique wine to break the ice. She completely misreads his polite smile, panics, and runs off to surrender her family's limited stash. The crowd whispers that he just violently extorted a helpless woman, upgrading his status to ultimate scoundrel. Yebin pretends she was just shy while listing off all the random tribute loot Alan accidentally collected. Giving up on making friends, our protagonist steps out onto the balcony for some fresh air. A mysterious red-haired woman watches him leave the hall. Standing alone, Alan questions his entire life choices until a girl interrupts his pity party. She introduces herself as Loria, the third daughter of the infamous Altia family. Our boy instantly recognizes her bloodline as one of the 3 ultimate game villains. He panics because he has zero memory of her existing in the original story. Looking absolutely desperate, Loria begs him to lend her his strength. She drops a massive bombshell revealing she is about to be assassinated. The scene kicks off with Loria begging our boy for help because her own sisters are trying to end her life. She drops a sob story about her sick dad and offers half of her massive rich family for a little protection. Our hero rejects her offer straight to her face without missing a single beat. He thinks dodging this random girl will keep his sweet lazy life safe from extra drama. Shift the scene to the dark, where 2 shady girls whisper about how fortunate Loria is to bump into the Great Moon. They plot to block all information so our hero never finds out they are butchering people in his name. Cut back to the fancy party where our protagonist stands around feeling isolated like a massive loser. He whines inside his head about needing one good friend to survive this harsh high society. Out of nowhere, Lady Zenonia struts right up to him and drops a smooth greeting. Our boy sweats hard because he knows her bloodline is one of the top 3 toxic families in the entire land. He realizes she runs a massive underground syndicate while his own family looks like cheap street thugs in comparison. She slides her hand right onto his chest, praising his manners and demanding a private chat. Alan panics hard and makes a weak excuse, begging her to let him slip away into the shadows fast. She flashes a wicked smile, super turned on by his fake mysterious bad boy act, and walks away. Cut to the shadows again, where the secret cult spies watch him get harassed by the red-haired menace. They decide to keep a close eye on the situation, ready to drop bodies if anyone touches their master. Scene transition to broad daylight in a massive creepy stone canyon. Our hero drags Yuban to a secret labyrinth, claiming this dark hole is the exact sweet spot they need to hit. Yuban asks how he knows about this hidden place, and our boy speaks out of turn that he used to come here all the time. He lies fast to cover his tracks, gaslighting his loyal knight into thinking he was daydreaming. They step deeper into the dark ruins to hunt for a specific piece of ancient jewelry. A massive stone monster drops from the ceiling and swings a giant fist right at them. Our protagonist stands still, acting like an absolute boss. He solves a basic puzzle on the wall, shutting down the monster, while Yuban glares in pure awe. Yuban thinks his master is a cold genius. The heavy doors grind open, leading them straight to the ultimate shiny prize. Alon grabs a chunky black ring, ordering his knight to leave the rest of the junk behind so they can bounce. He slides the ring onto his thumb, feeling like a massive winner who bypassed all the hard work. He promises Yuban a safe walk back, triggering the worst bad luck straight away. The entire pile of dead rocks rises up, revealing a massive ambush of huge stone giants. Yubin draws his blade, demanding his master run away while he takes the heavy pounding alone. Our boy steps up, realizing his basic magic tricks are useless against these giant rock freaks. He activates the dark ring, plunging his mind into a massive cosmic void with a booming ancient voice. The voice demands a heavy trade, and our hero offers to lock his magic behind strict hand signs for absolute power. He wants the massive juice to bend the world, and the mysterious void grants his greedy wish without delay. He then doubles down, demanding a second lock using weird ancient words to push his limits even further. The void voice accepts the second harsh limit, praising him for remembering the hidden secrets of an old god. The thick ring melts right into his skin, sealing the dark bargain and giving him the massive explosive finish he needs. Back in reality, Yubin is getting pushed to the brink by the monster and screams that they lack the firepower. Our hero hits his hand signs, channeling a blinding sphere of pure lightning right into his palm. He stares down the massive beast, ready to unload his heavy burst of electric justice. Our boy decides it is time to test his limits and the heavy price of his new dark magic. He holds a glowing blue sphere and starts shouting crazy magic words while lightning sparks everywhere. He forms his fingers into a quick sign and shoots a massive beam of wild electricity straight ahead. The giant stone freak gets absolutely roasted by the heavy voltage and crumbles into useless dust. Yubin stares at him like he just saw a ghost, totally shook by the massive flex. Yubin begs to know if his master was hiding this crazy boss power the whole time. He claims he never saw anything this wild in all his 15 years of catching bodies on the streets. Our hero plays it cool and says yes, but deep down he is sweating because he had zero clue. He realizes the old game rules are totally broken and his new magic is ridiculously amplified. They wrap up the danger work and Yubin slumps down, whining that this walk is harder than actual combat. Yubin stares at the giant ruin, wondering what kind of complete psycho built this dreadful place. Our hero suddenly remembers the dungeon was made by an ancient boss named Palin, and mutters the name out loud. Yubin gets confused, but our boy completely ignores him and orders a fast trip back to the east. He wants to hit the lab and test his new toys the second his mana fully recharges. Cut to the dead of night, where Ryan is creeping around the glowing blue rocks like a total weirdo. She reads the ancient script about the forgotten outer gods and the legendary emperor who held the line. The old story claims the emperor slayed a massive beast to protect his people from getting their hearts eaten. She knows all the deep lore because she was born inside the secret library to fulfill a heavy mission. She realizes Alan called that ancient emperor a friend, making her master look like a literal immortal god. Ren smiles like a total fanatic, ashamed she ever doubted the absolute crazy plan of their twisted cult. A spy drops from the trees and she immediately grills him for the fresh intel they need. The spy admits he failed completely because the target in black got his neck violently twisted in midair. Ran glares into the dark, deciding she has to report this messy failure to the higher-ups immediately. The scene shifts to the Zinnia estate where Kali is chilling with her tea in the dark. She thinks about how cold and dead our hero looked, totally obsessed with his empty gaze. She chats with Count Zenonia, admitting she is the real boss running the entire criminal family. She operates a massive underground syndicate, proving she knows exactly how to handle heavy loads. Count Zenonia plays the fool, but Kalia knows someone is watching them and their secret spies are getting clapped. A servant totally panics and begs Kalia to run to her private room right this second. She walks in and finds her elite spy hanging completely dead on the floor. The servant notes the silent kill proves the spy kept his mouth totally shut before he got dropped. Kalia just smirks, realizing our boy caught her lacking and pinned her major weakness to the wall. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to Alan drooling fast asleep in a bumpy carriage ride home. The scene shifts to the massive Altia family turf in the dead of night. Loria is staring out her window, completely stressed about a cold-eyed underworld boss. She flashes back to our boy looking like an absolute unit, convinced he is a dangerous mastermind. She cries about being stripped of all her cash and power by her 4 totally cowardly siblings. Our hero completely curves her desperate plea for a deal, leaving her broke and crying. She thought he was her last lifeline, but he refused to catch her heavy baggage. Cut to Loria pulling up to her creepy mansion in a fancy carriage. Her maids run up in a total panic, crying that her horrible siblings just took their own lives. Loria is completely stunned, knowing these backstabbing snakes would never actually delete themselves. She walks in and sees the massive bloodbath, questioning how a family of total cowards could suddenly end it all. She immediately demands to know what happened to her oldest brother and sister, sweating absolute bullets. The maids just point to the total mess left behind. Her oldest brother and sister are standing there completely ruined. The most unhinged part, both siblings had actually run each other through, plunging their swords directly into each other's chests. Radin flashes in the shadow, packing up his weapons after effortlessly scrubbing the entire bloodline. Loria freezes in pure terror as she remembers our hero promising her good fortune right before he dipped. She instantly connects the dots, realizing Alan is the true dark shadow running the streets. He casually wiped out her entire family tree just to put her on top. Just like that, Loria becomes the sole boss of the Altia family overnight. She wonders what kind of demon she signed a deal with, but she is ready to ride it out. Fast forward 2 months, where Yubin hands our boy a super rare bottle of fancy wine. It is a gift from Duke Ultia, costing a massive pile of gold. Alan holds the card, completely confused because he ghosted her and did zero work. He realizes Loria somehow grabbed the Duke title and sent him a heavy package. Whilst a flashback shows Loria sitting at the giant boss desk, ruling her turf like a total queen. She dodged all the murder heat thanks to that fancy party alibi, completely wiping her hands clean. She thinks our boy handled the dirty work perfectly, playing deep chess while leaving her zero burden. She assumes his massive master plan required her family name to boost his street credit. She decides to sit tight and get prepared for whenever her dark master wants to slip inside her business. Meanwhile, our protagonist stares at the wine, wondering why she is acting so obsessed. He thinks she's just a weirdo, entirely clueless that she worships him like a literal god. Jump to a few months later at the snowy Palacio mansion, where Yubin starts calling him the official count. Alan kicks back, completely ready to enjoy the rich boy perks and dodge all the heavy stress. He just wants a perfect lazy life with zero drama and endless free food. Yubin interrupts his chill vibe by giving him a fresh letter from Yudia. Alan asks for an update on his dead brother's killers, but Yubi says the spy guild is still digging. Yubi asks what the ultimate plan is, but our boy just shrugs, blaming his weird luck on butterfly effects. He opens Yudia's letter and reads about the kids living their best normal lives. Deus is playing with puppets, Seolang is running around, Ryan is reading, and Radan is touching grass. Our hero smiles like a proud dad, entirely blind to the fact he is raising an elite death squad. He thinks they are just a bunch of cute, harmless pets. He wonders how old the kids are getting while Yui stands around looking suspicious. Yuis reminds him the kids are ready to hit the streets and step into society. All five of the world-ending menaces smiling and thanking him for raising them right. Alan decides it is time to cut the leash, totally confident they will not turn into psycho bosses now. He remembers their special gaming stats and decides to mail each of them a personalized shiny gift. Yubin grabs the stack of letters, gives a cheeky salute, and runs off to do the chores. The scene jumps to the kids standing together in a dark, shady room. A massive directive finally drops from their absolute favorite boss. Radan and the rest of the crew get their special envelopes delivered straight to their hands. Yui stares down at her letter, gripping it tight while her eyes glow a crazy, bloodthirsty red. The squad gathers in the dark, because a fresh batch of mail just dropped. Yui stops them from opening the new stuff and pulls out the old letters first. She reads Alan complaining about getting sat on by his brother and seriously translates it as a top-tier hitman contract. These kids are so deeply brainwashed they think a guy whining about back pain is dropping master-level code. She preaches that his casual chats were actually him handing over the entire criminal underworld. Radan asks why their leader uses slow paper mail instead of just calling them up face-to-face. Yuya instantly shuts him down, acting like a total cult glazer who refuses to question the divine plan. Daewis looks absolutely obsessed, completely soaked in her weird devotion to our boy. Seolang finally rips open the new orders and immediately whines about getting sent to the sandy desert. Radan gets deployed to the Pleasure City, meaning this white-haired kid is about to get his absolute joystick drained in the trenches. Merlin is shipped off to a giant maze while Yudia secures her spot in the Holy Kingdom with a wicked smirk. Daios reads his paper and realizes his master wants him swinging a sword for a living. Seolang happily notes the boss promised them a steady cash flow to fund their chaotic road trips. Yuya lays down the absolute law, threatening them to never drop the cult name in public. The whole squad of absolute menaces steps out into the bright sunshine, completely ready to terrorize the map. After 3 months, our hero is stressed out of his mind behind a giant stack of books. He asks Yubin if the spies found out who turned his terrible brother into a bloody mess. Yubin shakes his head, totally useless as usual. Alan remembers Loria is currently gobbling up underworld power like a complete monster. He decides to completely drop the murder case, realizing digging too deep will absolutely get his own cheeks clapped. He figures the secret shadow mobs will not touch him if he just stays inside and plays dumb. He officially cancels the manhunt and goes back to being a useless lazy potato. Yubin tells him about Datius that he has become a knight in Caliban. 3 more months fly by, and Yebin officially calls him the Count, while our boy aggressively deep-throats a massive stack of meat skewers. Yebin drops the news that Deoas just built his own knight order out in the city. Alan gets hyped, thinking his little dark weapon is growing up perfectly. 6 full months pass, and our boy is back to riding his desk chair hard. Yebin pops in with the craziest update yet, announcing Deoas just hit the rank of Master Knight. Alan shocked violently because that rank is reserved for literal absolute monsters. He remembers the old world rules where real masters unlock wild custom powers after decades of harsh training. Yebin confirms Deo skipped the custom power part but still brutally folded the 4th sword to steal the shiny title. Yebin explains the absolute unit named Reinhardt took 20 years to reach that legendary level. Our protagonist realizes Deo has picked up a blade and learned everything from scratch in a single year. He starts plotting how to squeeze some sweet perks out of his adopted weapon for himself. Yebien just smiles while Alan immediately starts crying about his empty mailbox. He realizes Yudia is completely ghosting him while swapping all the juicy gossip with the rest of the hit squad. Our boy feels incredibly betrayed that his favorite white-haired psycho has not thanked him for the massive gifts. He slaps his own face hard, telling himself to stop whining like a neglected side piece. He decides to just be happy these crazy walking disasters are not actively burning his kingdom to the ground. He smiles out the window, totally satisfied as long as they are eating good. The scene shifts entirely to a beautiful sunset over the massive night capital. Dozens of heavy knights sweated out in the training yard of the lunar eclipse mansion. Daedu stands by the window wearing a fancy captain uniform and looking like an absolute brooding edgelord. Someone yells out for their brother, and a cute girl runs straight at him. He catches her with a soft smile, suddenly feeling super awkward about how soft he has gotten. A deep flashback kicks in, showing how he used to be a completely broken mess. Back in the day, Shadow Freaks wiped his entire life clean, leaving him to rot in a cold, dark cell. He lived on nothing but pure, unfiltered hatred and a burning need to catch bodies. The cult gave him a home, but he only stayed to sharpen his blade and plan his bloody revenge. Then the letter from Alan telling him to visit a cheap inn for a surprise. He kicked the door open and instantly started bawling his eyes out because his dead sister was standing right there waiting for him. Deus drops to his knees. He completely breaks down crying over a crazy family reunion. His little sister is actually alive and standing right in front of him after all this time. They sit down at a table to chat, and she spills the heavy tea about her dark past. She got dragged away by some shady creeps and locked in a rusty cage for years. She thought her life was completely over, just waiting in the dark to get permanently deleted. Right before the bad guys could end her, a mysterious shadow stepped up and slashed them into pieces. She escaped the bloody mess but got cornered by dirty slave traders a few years later. That is when the one-eyed goat Yeban swung his blade and completely saved her neck from ruin. She handed Deus a fancy little note signed by our boy Alan, proving he funded her whole survival. Deus stares at the card, totally shook that his master was paying to keep his bloodline wet and alive. Deus feels like an absolute clown as the puzzle pieces finally snap together inside his brain. He realizes Alan knew his deepest secrets and practically played God just to keep his sister breathing. This poor black-haired kid gets so emotional he practically drowns his sister in a massive tearful hug. He vows to stop being a blind fanboy and start putting in the heavy physical work for his boss. He promises to climb to the very top and build the most elite squad the streets have ever seen. Deus straps on his Dark Commander uniform and stands in front of his massive new knight army. He pledges his absolute loyalty to the moon, ready to drag his boys into the absolute worst conditions. The squad marches out into the freezing snow to clash with wild barbarians and catch some heavy bodies. Meanwhile, the scene completely flips to a sunny afternoon, where our hero is straight up slacking off. Alan lays in the grass surrounded by messy papers, thinking his life is finally stress-free and easy. He starts scribbling in his notebook, trying to map out all the crazy ancient words he unlocked. Our boy is mixing and matching spicy phrases to see how much raw energy he can squeeze out. He blasts a wild shockwave into the air, perfectly combining blue light and heavy crushing force. You lazy couch potatoes could never handle pushing your limits this hard in the dirt. He realizes he has to drain his heavy magic tank once a day just to keep his body right. He steps up to try a fresh combo, chaining words like compression and collapse to build a massive glowing orb. A wild lightning beam shoots straight into the sky, but he realizes his stroke timing has to be totally perfect. Out of nowhere, Lady Zenonia and some wrinkly old dude walk up and completely freeze in shock. The old man screams about origin magic, sweating like he just saw a literal god flexing his huge wand. Our boy looks around totally confused while the old guy claims only 7th circle top-tier freaks can handle that thick juice. Lady Zenonia and the disgraced 5th-rank mage Bianchel sat dripping with cold sweat in the Palacio reception room. Zenonia had arrived to sniff out Count Palacio's real power and secret guard, clutching a card that could detonate her entire criminal empire if things went wrong. Instead, what she found shook her to the core. Next to her, Bianchel, a man infamous for illegal human experiments and capable of wiping out armies, trembled like a cornered rat, feeling a suffocating dark horror radiating from the estate. The heavy doors swung open, and Alan casually strolled in, his eyes ice cold. Plopping onto a sofa, he smoothly brushed off Zenonia's quick lie about getting lost, telling the red-haired lady he wouldn't hold her weird stalking against her. Leaning forward, Alan made it crystal clear that the massive energy flex they witnessed was not an origin magic. He rated his own output as a basic 2nd-rank level with 0 attack or defense stats, dropping a heavy warning for them to keep their mouths completely shut. Bianchel broke like a cheap toy, stuttering in total submission and using hyper-respectful honorifics that completely shocked Zenonia. Olin simply smiled, crossed his hands, and brutally cut through their small talk by stating he was too busy grinding paperwork. Taking the massive loss, Zenonia excused herself, but as she stood, Olin casually dropped a chaotic bomb to get her off his back, suggesting she go bother Duke Ultia instead, claiming those 2 toxic underworld bosses would get along perfectly. Once inside her carriage, Zenonia demanded the truth. Bianchel aggressively denied it was origin magic, teetering on a full-blown panic attack. He explained that origin magic followed the fixed rules of the universe, but Count Palacio's magic was completely broken. Activating his special glowing blue eye, the mage had seen Alan literally tearing the magical canvas apart, freezing wild lightning, and collapsing the pure laws of physics into a single spell. Bianchel screamed that it was 100% the work of a forgotten ancient deity, warning her to never make an enemy out of that walking disaster. Zenonia merely smirked, totally turned on by the idea of serving a god. Fully accepting her role as his loyal pawn, she ordered the carriage straight to Altia's turf. 5 months later, Yubin dropped a massive nuke on our boy's peaceful vibe, revealing that the Zenonia and Atia families had just fused into a giant, terrifying underworld alliance. Alon was violently shocked, realizing his casual joke had been interpreted as an absolute divine order. Pulling his hair out, he prepared for the worst by handing Yubin a sealed letter for the mercenary guild. He also ordered his knight to keep tracking the missing kids, especially Radan and the blonde fox girl Sealang. Alon prayed she was still alive, remembering he had told her exactly where to dig up the sacred beast of the Golden Mane tribe, a golden gauntlet that acted as a literal cheat code for fights. Far away in the dusty desert nation known as the Colony, Sealang panted heavily inside a dark cave after a massive grind. Flexing the shiny golden gauntlet on her arm, she looked absolutely unhinged and ready to catch bodies. The ancient bedtime stories were hardcore facts. The essence of the Golden Mane tribe was a legendary heirloom granting divine authority, and she now held all the heavy juice. Glowing with wild golden energy on a cliffside, she celebrated crushing every brutal trial inside her mind. Remembering how the Great Moon saved her life after she nearly died in a nasty lab, she vowed to become his ultimate loyal weapon and get brutal revenge on the black dragon that deleted her parents. A massive golden beast aura flared behind her as she accepted her true mission, to become the strongest gladiator alive and reunite her scattered family. Stepping out into the purple night, she blasted a massive golden beam into the sky, her eyes glowing with fanatic energy as she prepared to absolutely terrorize the desert under a giant blue moon. Our boy Alan is flipping through some boring paperwork when UVN pops up like a bad pop-up ad. The one-eyed knight casually drops that he totally forgot to mention some hot street gossip yesterday. The Information Guild picked up rumors about the little squad out in the wild. Apparently, the foxy blonde is running around the colony catching bodies under the cringe nickname Golden Flash. Alan smiles to himself, just glad his little feral pets are staying fed and violent. He asks about the white-haired boy Radan, hoping the kid is keeping his joystick clean out in Raxas. Yubin says intel is dry right now, but they are double-checking some shady leads. Alan asks his knight if he is busy, catching major attitude from the guy who already finished his chores. Alan sighs, telling Yubin they need to pack their bags early for a massive road trip. It takes a whole month of riding just to reach the magical tower, and Yubin is completely clueless. He whines that the green magic tower is only a week away, but our boy shuts that down fast. They are heading straight to the blue magic tower, right next to the massive labyrinth city. Alan instantly starts dreading the bumpy carriage ride, knowing his backside is going to be completely raw. He has no choice though, because he desperately needs a special shiny toy to support his tiny, pathetic mana pool. Our boy zones out, remembering his hardcore gaming days grinding that exact labyrinth city map. It was the ultimate leveling zone where the players kept digging down like absolute madmen. He used heavy cheat codes to drill all the way down to floor 150 back then. He remembers the crazy loot drops and the fancy certified appraisers who made bank checking the gear. He thinks about Rain in her upcoming appraiser exam, confident she will absolutely crush it. He wonders if the little shiny trinket he mailed her was too cheap to help her handle heavy loads. He decides to slide her some extra support if she needs it, completely blind to what she is actually doing. The scene hard cuts to the dark and neon-lit labyrinth city of Lartania, a lawless playground for mercenaries. Deep down a shady alley, a super secretive appraisal shop is quietly making serious moves. The green-haired girl Ryan is working the counter, servicing the absolute highest tier of noble clients, as she is chatting up the literal lord of the city, showing off a fresh artifact that spits out hot flames. The guy is totally amazed by how well she handles his special device. He thanks her deeply, and she casually grabs another long, thick item to work her magic on. This dark corner shop is famous for one special trick they call the imprint. Reen holds up a glowing golden eye relic, praising the Great Moon for giving her the absolute best tools. A quick flashback hits, where Alan casually telling her to go be an appraiser. At first, the poor girl was completely lost in the sauce, not understanding his weird divine plan. She fully believes her boss is an ancient outer god who wants to delete the dark forces of the world. She just could not figure out how running a pawn shop was going to kill any black wolves. But the second she touched that golden eye relic, her brain totally expanded into maximum fanatic mode. Little she realized the truth-seeking eye quickly judges dirty items, but it was way different from the textbooks. This shiny toy was completely off the charts, bursting with chains and demanding serious sacrifices to level up. When she unlocked the seals, the giant eye opened up, telling her exactly what she needed to swallow. To gain the heavy power to crush their enemies, she has to feed this relic a massive diet of high-tier artifacts. A glowing screen tells her she still needs 252 more sacrifices until the eye fully blooms. Thus she smirks, knowing she is the only person born with the eternal brain power to pull this off. She stares at the golden eye, swearing everything she does is just to please her dark master. The scene jumps forward 3 weeks to the massive, shiny blue magic tower reaching into the sky. A blue-haired girl with major attitude tells Alan the tower boss is not home and to get out fast. This is Vice Master Pedia Clint. Alon knows this girl from the game and tries to play it smooth, saying he is here to fix a time rift. Palacio looks him up and down, completely disgusted by his weak vibes, and tells him to kick rocks. Alon panics because this is not how the game script goes, begging her to let him clear the dungeon for the loot inside. She absolutely snaps, screaming that every desperate loser comes here begging for the exact same free handout. She roasts him alive, calling him a lucky fraud who needs a PR stunt to look good. Alon stands there taking the verbal beating, thinking she is way too scary with her heavy mana pressure. But our boy is desperate, so he bets his entire fortune on a magical contract just to get inside. Pedia leads them to a massive cracked door, ready to steal all his cash the second he fails. She watches him closely, judging his tiny mana core and calling his whole existence completely pathetic. Normally these weird rifts close on their own after spitting out a random toy, but this one has been stuck for 2 years. The floor is totally shattered with blue light as Alon steps up to the glowing mess. Pedia tells him to give up and leave, mocking him for using his bare hands instead of a proper wizard staff. She calls his primitive style unbelievable and tells him to stop playing pretend. But before she can blink, the entire room freezes solid and her body locks up completely. A massive, terrifying wave of pure red dark energy explodes from Alon, forming a giant demonic eye that absolutely swallows the room. Massive cracks wreck the tower floor as Vice Master Pedia stared at Alon like he had grown a second head. Sweating buckets, her mind went totally blank. Suddenly, her special observation eye activated on its own, spinning a blue magic circle in her pupil to scan the red danger zone flooding the room. As her magic eye tried to break down Alon's core, warning signs screamed in her mind. Realizing this walking disaster was too dangerous to handle, she tried to stop her thoughts before she ruined her life. A giant, terrifying red demonic eye opened in the dark, reaching out with glowing hands. The red energy forced absolute submission into her soul, and she gulped hard under the heavy pressure. Outside, the blue gate slammed completely shut. Alon dusted off his coat and casually announced the rift was closed like it was just a quick daily chore. In his head, he knew he just needed some cheat items to get jobs done right. Hoping his fake magic trick had fooled the blue-haired girl, he looked over at Pedia. She was shaking and covering her mouth, swearing she would never leak his secret. Alon was totally lost, wondering if his big bluff had failed since she looked so terrified. He told her to stop being a dramatic weirdo, but Pedia lost her mind, screaming at the top of her lungs that she would take his secret to her grave, to escape her unhinged energy. Alon decided to bounce, but Pedia physically jumped to block his exit path. But she aggressively shoved a shiny briefcase into his face, begging him to take her top-tier handmade healing potions. Alon grabbed a glowing blue vial, totally shocked because these tiny bottles cost more than a small mansion. But the scared Pedia, desperate for a single drop of validation, while Alon wondered why she was acting so submissive over a basic dungeon clear. Sweating and misunderstanding the vibe, Pedia suddenly offered to lock herself in a magical oath. Before Alon could stop her, thick blue magic chains exploded around her body, binding her soul to secrecy. She smiled like a proud puppy while Alon just accepted his fate and grabbed 5 free potions. Later, their fancy carriage rolled away from the blue magic tower. Inside, our boy strapped a basic-looking dungeon seal bracelet to his wrist, watching the gems suck up free mana from the air to fill his tiny mana pool. He laughed at his weak stats, claiming his only real goal was staying alive and doing boring research. He flashed back to telling Pedia he was just a weak second circle wizard, remembering how she gave him a terrified thumbs up. Alon wondered if she was roasting him, but decided he did not care since he planned to ghost her forever anyway. The scene shifted to the massive white stone mansion of Duke Altea. Inside, Laria hosted the Lady Zenonia. Skipping the noble small talk, Zenonia praised Count Palacio, fully believing Alon was playing calculated big-brain chess with their lives. She showed Laria a sloppy apology letter from Alon, which complained that few nobles fit his lazy vibe. Laria stared at the note with sharp eyes, totally convinced this basic message was actually a coded mafia hit list. Zenonia flashed a wicked smile, ready to decode their master's imaginary kill orders. Though Zenonia listed the powerful politicians named in the letter, concluding that Alon wanted to bully the old leaders out of office and build a totally new regime. Laria reached total enlightenment, believing Alon had blessed her with a duke title just to use her street fame for a political takeover. Smiling like proud cult members, they started plotting how to ruin the government for their boss. Meanwhile, back at the Blue Magic Tower, Vice Master Pedia looked completely traumatized as she confirmed to the Tower Lord that Count Palacio was a walking disaster. While all these random puzzle pieces ran wild to fit a fake master plan, Alon violently choked on a piece of sweet potato by a campfire, completely clueless about the massive wars starting in his name. Chugging water, he cried about wanting to go home and read a letter from his favorite psycho, Utia. Far away, a massive church tower stood tall under a starry purple night sky. Utia stood there, rocking a clean holy nun outfit with a shiny golden cross, looking back over her shoulder with a gorgeous but totally unhinged smile. The old master of the Blue Magic Tower walked back home looking for his student Pedia. He expected a warm welcome but instantly noticed his special security lock was completely missing from the door. Pushing inside, he found Pedia slumped over her messy desk, looking completely tired and empty inside. She weakly muttered that the job was done, leaving the old man shocked to his core. This girl usually walked around with her nose in the air, so seeing her this drained was crazy. He remembered ignoring her rude attitude before because he thought reaching the higher magic circles would naturally humble her ego. The old wizard leaned in and asked if her road trip up north was just too rough. Bly dropped the bomb that Count Palacio completely shut down the broken time gate without even breaking a sweat. The master demanded all the details, but she stayed completely quiet because of her strict magical promise. He realized the Count used magic that even a genius could not understand, and his brain immediately jumped to legendary origin power. The old man reached out and casually patted her head while she just sat there taking it. She was so completely sad that she did not even try to push his hand away from her hair. He smiled to himself, thinking this random Count from a tiny kingdom sounded like an absolute street legend. A month flew by, and the scene jumped back to Alan, testing his magic outside. He looked at his new dark bracelet, happy that it finally let him use his magic more than once. Our boy was taking notes on his spell combos, realizing he could stack words for massive damage. He blasted a heavy gravity spell straight into the dirt, cracking the solid ground wide open like nothing. Yeben watched the destruction and pointed out that his master was holding way more power than a basic wizard. Elo knew his crazy power jump came from putting the perfect words together like a cheat code, but he immediately lied to himself, assuming he just woke up feeling extra strong today. Yubin walked up holding a new letter from Yudia, instantly putting a huge smile on our hero's face. Olin grabbed his mail and decided to head back for the day since his magic tank was completely empty. As they walked back to the house, Olin wondered why his spells were hitting so hard. He wondered if he accidentally started some dark curse to boost his stats. He then wondered if random people were actively praying to him, but he laughed off the idea as completely impossible. The scene totally flipped to the glowing holy kingdom of Rosario under a massive bright full moon. A handsome knight named Locke stepped into the courtyard and bowed down to a beautiful nun. Yudia stood there wearing a tight holy outfit, looking very pretty while wrapped in loose chains. Even though she had zero official holy power, Locke treated her like she owned the whole place. He happily reported that he just saved a bunch of kids and villagers down south thanks to her help. Locke admitted he owed his entire career to her after she pulled him out of a bad place. Years ago, he was completely sad over his weak holy power. He was ready to drop his sword and quit until Yui told him to start praying to the moon instead. He spent days begging the night sky for power, and his holy sword miraculously lit up bright. He felt guilty for turning away from the main goddess, but the power he got was completely real. Locke asked why she told him to look up at the moon when he was feeling down. Yudia flashed a dangerous red eye and smoothly claimed it was much easier to trust something you can actually see. She tricked this poor knight into believing the moon was just the goddess watching over them. Locke believed the lie completely, bowing deep to her waist and thanking her for the massive help. She smiled like a real wild animal and invited him inside to join her for a special prayer. They stepped through massive wooden doors into a huge church hall packed tight with loyal followers. Yuia slowly walked up the glowing purple stairs to the main altar, ready to run her daily meeting. She turned around and told her entire massive crowd to start praying, but she completely skipped the goddess and commanded them all to worship the great moon instead. She flashed a wicked smile, proving she had just stolen an entire religion for her favorite boss. Alon sat slumped at his desk, staring out the huge sunny window and feeling completely down. He was reading another boring life update letter, crying inside because none of his kids besides Yudia ever wrote back to him. He tried to act like a saint, telling himself they just saw him as a rich guy who paid their bills. Alon tricked his own brain, claiming he only saved them so they would not destroy the world, not because he actually wanted friends. He took a deep breath but failed to find peace. The disrespect hurt. He raised 5 future dangerous leaders and only the oldest one respected his hard work. He buried his face in his hands, crying silent tears while pretending he was totally fine. Suddenly, Yui-ban kicks his thoughts, scaring Alon so bad he almost fell out of his fancy chair. Yui-ban pulled out a small note from the spy guild, claiming he finally got some fresh news on the runaway kids. Alon sat up fast, desperate to hear what Radon was doing out on the streets. Yeben handed over the note, admitting the spies had just decoded the secret street talk. Our boy internally thinks about Radon that he wearing a large straw hat and smiling like a crazy person. The kid happily announced he had just become a pirate. Yeben broke down his dream, noting that Seolang and Deus were causing the most trouble. Seolang just beaten 32 people in a row in the fighting arena, crushing everyone on her way to challenge the final boss. Alon sweated because her next target was a legendary Lion King who was supposed to be an unbeatable character. He realized his little blonde pet was already clearing the hardest parts of the world without breaking a sweat. Yelban then moved on to Deus, revealing the edgy knight had just destroyed a powerful barbarian boss named Kurga. Alon remembered these barbarians from his old gaming days. They were superhumans. He realized he did not even have to fight their ultimate god boss anymore since Deus had already taken out the trash. He decided to stop worrying about the edgy kid, assuming Deus was living like a top legend now. Like, our boy wondered if he should have gone to see them in person. He checked the notes on the Rhine and felt glad she was just quietly running her small shop. But then reality hit him again, and he demanded to know how Radan actually became a pirate king. Yurban explained the kid sailed out to the islands and forcefully stole the captain's seat on the biggest island. Alan grabbed his head, feeling sick because those pirate captains were all super strong. He realized his parenting plan had completely failed, leaving him sad and wondering where he went wrong. The scene jumped across the map to the sunny city of Raxus, a playground for sea thugs. Just off the coast lay the first archipelago, a giant pirate paradise. A broken sword lay on the wooden docks, proving the old legendary pirate king had just been beaten in a fight. The new captain, Radon, sat casually with his white hair blowing in the wind, smirking like a guy who just took the top spot. Radon sighed, completely confused about what the Great Moon actually was or why he was following these strange orders. He admitted he only saw Alan as a rich guy who paid his bills, but Yuya had forced him to wake up his sea powers. Radon held his head, tired of the mission, until he realized this pirate job perfectly matched his own plan for revenge. Listening to a beautiful flashback, a sunny island where Radon's peaceful sea god family used to live. Out of nowhere, dark shadows attacked, violently killing his entire family. Radon barely survived, only to get caught by human hunters who finished off his tired parents. The hunters dragged him away and sold him like cheap animals, leaving him broken and full of pure hatred. Back in the present, he decides to play along with the group for now. Radon smiled, knowing his new job gave him the perfect cover to hunt down the men who destroyed his family. Nearby, a large pirate party was happening. Thugs were drinking and celebrating their new boss, bragging about a heavenly blessing. But Radon stared from the dark with angry blue eyes, realizing these fools were using his dead family's power. He knew the blessing was actually a ritual that required using a sea god's body. He watched the pirates' party, absolutely disgusted that every captain on the island was powered by his parents' stolen life. Radon's face twisted with pure rage as he realized the hunters had chopped his parents into pieces to sell for money. His glowing blue eyes locked onto the happy crowd, and a massive wave of violent water energy exploded behind him. The scene opens with loud fireworks blowing up the night sky over a massive pirate ship. Radon stands in the dark, flexing heavy lightning juice and looking like an absolute edgelord. He whines about how the Great Moon casually handed him the perfect setup for his bloody payback. Our white-haired boy realizes his enemies are totally jacked on fake sea god powers. He grips his glowing golden pendant, finally realizing his sugar daddy hooked him up with the ultimate cheat code. A quick flashback drops us into the deep blue ocean where Radon goes completely wet and wild. He uses the shiny amulet called Amrita's goggles to absolutely drain hidden underwater loot boxes. He pulls up massive ancient artifacts to cover up his own weak little stats. Back on the beach, he realizes he was a total clown for just dropping a basic thank you text. The Great Moon literally handed him the strap and the green light to wipe the entire server. Radon smirks like a complete psycho, finally catching the vibe of his master's cryptic mafia orders. He vows to brutally hijack the 7 archipelagos and catch every single body for the Great Moon. Fast forward 3 months later to crispy autumn leaves falling on a super bumpy carriage ride. Our boy sits inside looking completely cooked and totally annoyed. He is forced to attend a boring networking party alongside some random snobby neighbor families to dodge street bandits. Later that evening, Alan parks his absolute dump truck at a cheap tavern to chill with a wooden mug. 2 wrinkly nobles immediately pull up to his table and start roasting his empty pockets straight to his face. They mock him for only having 1 guard, laughing that the lucky brat is totally broke. Alan sighs, knowing he dropped the toxic family hustle, leaving his turf wide open for these bottom feeders. You broke viewers know exactly what it feels like to get clapped by haters while checking your bank app. Our hero completely ignores the noisy haters, realizing they are just victims of his dead brother's old bullying. He figures these absolute losers are just venting their crusty daddy issues on him for zero reason. Yubin suddenly slides back into the room holding a massive plate of hot roasted corn. Alan happily shoves the thick cob right into his mouth, totally vibing with the sweet root vegetables. He chews his food like a peaceful potato, completely ignoring the toxic beef happening around him. The scene violently cuts to the freezing north, where a bunch of dead barbarians are resting in pieces. A giant bleeding barbarian chief named Kurga crawls through the snow looking absolutely pathetic. He spits pure venom at the Caliban knights who baited him into a fake duel and clapped him from behind. This massive beefcake is literally crying about honor while bleeding out like a total scrub in the dirt. He wheezes and curses, totally unable to take the massive loss and go to sleep in peace. Suddenly, a giant creepy voice echoes inside the dying boomer's head, telling him to stop whining and start praying. Dark snowflakes drop as the voice demands Kurga scream the name of his ultimate god to get bailed out. Kurga violently stretches his thick hand forward, begging the great god Ultus to save his cooked life. A giant blue demonic face flashes on with a wicked toothy grin. The cursed god promises to grant his desperate wish. Like the Jiri, the bumpy carriage ride continues through crunchy red autumn leaves, while the absolute worst neighbors tag along. The 2 ugly nobles laugh their heads off, mocking our boy for eating cheap snacks like a total broke loser. Alan completely ignores the haters, choosing to block out the noise like a true street professional dodging toxic bait. Later that night, the squad sets up a campfire where Alan and Yubin munch on hot roasted fish. Our hero clearly wins the mental war, happily wrapping his lips around thick sausages while the crusty haters boil in the dark, leaving the two boomers sweating and completely terrified. Knights quickly turn around as massive glowing red eyes pop out of the dark woods, totally ready to catch fresh bodies. A wizard shoots a bright light into the sky, revealing a nasty pack of ugly green goblins pulling up to the camp. The guards relax for a quick second, laughing that it is just a bunch of weak forest trash trying to act tough. That confidence completely dies when they realize these freaks are absolutely jacked and covered in glowing purple crystals. The beefy goblins rush the camp, ripping through the frontline guards and turning the midnight shift into an absolute bloodbath. Someone screams that these mutated monsters are pumping heavy magic, slashing through armor with insane physical force. A massive purple dome shield pops up over the camp, leaving a random mage sweating bullets while trying to hold the thick barrier. Dome, a soldier, wonders who the extra wizard is before stepping up to handle the massive mess himself. Our hero channels his wild broken magic, whispering ancient forbidden words to build a massive glowing purple gravity sphere. The heavy vacuum ball shoots into the sky, violently sucking up the giant goblins and crushing them into absolute dust. With the front line cleared, our hero orders the stunned nobles to stop standing around looking totally useless. The guards finally wake up from their shock and slash down the remaining green freaks, surviving the brutal night raid. When the morning sun finally peeks over the trees, the surviving nobles stare at our boy's back like he is a literal god. Inside, our protagonist is completely cooked, sweating bullets and panicking because he almost got sent straight to the dirt. He used up his tiny daily magic pool way too fast, leaving his body completely drained and totally defenseless. Yui checks on his master, but Alan acts tough, claiming he is perfectly fine despite shaking like a wet noodle. He whines internally that losing his massive firepower is terrifying, realizing riding with these annoying neighbors was actually a huge lifesaver. He stares down at the dead purple goblin, realizing this nasty mutation is a massive red flag called a divine descent. He stresses out because these outer god signs are only supposed to drop when his adopted kids destroy the whole world. Holding his aching head, our boy realizes the absolute worst timeline is rushing forward way faster than he planned. The very next day, the exhausted crew finally rolls up to the massive cathedral-like mansion of the Rotigri ducal house. Alan literally leans on his loyal knight on the fancy stairs, crying that he just wants to go home and sleep. Next, Alan arrived at the luxurious Rotigri ducal estate for a grand gathering of nobles. The enormous hall glittered with gold decorations, giant chandeliers, and lavish ornaments, and to Alan, it looked more like a flashy church than a party. As he took in the extravagant surroundings, Yui joked that the hosts were so obsessed with showing off their wealth that nobody would notice if valuables disappeared. Hearing this, Alan laughed quietly, though he already felt uncomfortable among the wealthy nobles who seemed obsessed with status and appearances. While exploring the venue, he was suddenly approached by two nervous noblemen, carrying expensive gifts and looking visibly terrified. One noble offered a giant premium cut of meat decorated with a yellow ribbon, while the other presented a chest filled with gold. They claimed the gifts were financial support for his territory, and hoped he would accept their sincere contributions. Completely confused, Alan simply stared at them without saying anything, trying to understand why strangers were acting so strangely. Unfortunately, his silence was mistaken for anger, causing both nobles to panic even more than before. The reason for their fear became clear in a flashback to the previous day. The two men had secretly witnessed Alan fighting goblins, and watched in shock as he effortlessly destroyed powerful monsters using advanced lightning magic far beyond anything they expected. Unable to understand his true strength, they later consulted a skilled blue-haired mage for a professional evaluation. After examining the magical residue, the mage became frightened and confirmed that Alan's power exceeded third-tier standards. At that moment, the nobles realized that the rumors claiming Alan had gained his title through luck were completely false and misleading. Convinced that he was secretly a ruthless genius hiding unimaginable power, they became terrified of making him an enemy. Believing gifts were their only protection, they prepared offerings and hoped to earn his favor before disaster struck. Back at the party, their fear finally overwhelmed them, and both men suddenly collapsed onto their knees. Crying loudly, they begged Alan for mercy despite having done nothing that he could remember. Finding the entire situation exhausting and embarrassing, Alan ignored them and quietly walked away without responding. Though in search of some peace, he headed toward the buffet area and selected a freshly baked egg tart. While eating, he enhanced his hearing with mana and secretly listened to nearby conversations. During this, he overheard two nobles discussing a surprising political alliance between powerful families within the kingdom's highest circles. The conversation became even more shocking when they revealed the supposed leader behind the alliance. To Alan's disbelief, they claimed that Count Palatio was masterminding the entire political movement from behind the scenes. Hearing his own name attached to such nonsense, he accidentally dropped his egg tart in surprise. He immediately realized that absurd rumors were spreading rapidly despite having little connection to the people being mentioned. Before he could process the situation any further, a young foreign noble confidently approached him. The newcomer introduced himself as Carmine, the third son of Duke Camelon from the distant Ashtalon kingdom. Without hesitation, Carmine mocked Alan and dismissed him as a lucky noble lacking real achievements or influence. A flashback then revealed Carmine's true frustration and the reason behind his sudden hostility. He had traveled a great distance hoping to marry the youngest daughter of the Lothagru family. Unfortunately for him, she rejected his proposal immediately and showed no interest whatsoever. Humiliated and angry, Carmine decided to take out his frustration on someone he considered an easy target. However, events did not unfold the way he expected. After confronting Alan publicly, almost immediately, three powerful figures, Duke Rotegri, Marquis Mardanio, and Count Palin, stepped forward to defend him. They harshly criticized Carmine for insulting a noble they considered vital to the kingdom's future. The young noble quickly realized that he had challenged someone supported by the kingdom's strongest political leaders. As fear replaced arrogance, he began sweating, trembling, and desperately searching for a way out. Overwhelmed by panic, Carmine dropped to the floor and repeatedly apologized for his disrespectful behavior. After embarrassing himself even further, he fled the gathering while everyone watched his dramatic retreat. Once the commotion settled, the influential nobles checked whether Alan had been offended by the incident. At that moment, Alan finally understood that these powerful leaders genuinely believed the exaggerated stories surrounding him. Determined to stop the misunderstanding, he prepared to explain that the rumors were completely false. Before he could say anything, however, Marquis Mardanio presented him with an extremely rare mana storage relic. The magical treasure was incredibly valuable, and Alan immediately recognized its usefulness. Unable to resist such a reward, he abandoned his plan to correct the misunderstanding. Instead, he accepted the relic while his system confirmed that he had obtained valuable magical artifacts and recovery potions. Later that night, Marquis Mardanio attended a secret meeting inside a quiet estate annex. There, the mysterious woman waiting for him was revealed to be the influential Duke Altia. During their discussion, the Marquis explained that offering such a valuable relic symbolized a desire to join someone's faction. As a result, by accepting the gift, Alan had unknowingly signaled his approval of their allegiance. Duke Altia smiled with satisfaction and declared that they now shared the same goal under Alan's leadership. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the consequences of his actions, Alan had accidentally become the center of a growing political movement. Later, Duke Altia and Marquis Mardanio discuss their newly formed alliance. The Marquis expresses his deep satisfaction with the current situation. He notes that Duke Altia is someone who rarely makes a move in the political world. However, she personally showed up this time and carefully selected the right people to join them. These chosen nobles were required to present sincere bribes as a strict rite of passage. The Marquis is fully aware that wild rumors are spreading everywhere, but he sees this as a massive political opportunity that he absolutely must seize. Meanwhile, the grand banquet reaches its fourth day. Alan is having an incredibly profitable time. He stands alone, watching as various nobles continuously send him extremely expensive gifts. He realizes very quickly that all these lavish presents are a direct result of the false rumors linking him to Duke Altia and Count Zenonia. The nobles truly believe he is a powerful mastermind. Instead of clearing up the misunderstanding, Alan decides to take full advantage of the situation. He happily accepts every single item, secretly planning to take everything and run away before anyone figures out the truth. Tuduya, his peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted when his subordinate, Evan, quietly appears right behind him. Yubin brings highly disturbing news from his recent intelligence gathering. According to his reports, a terrifying being known as an outer god has suddenly descended upon the northern region of Caliban. The entire area is in a massive uproar because ancient texts suggest these entities are incredibly dangerous. Furthermore, Yui reports that he has successfully located a specific person Alan had been searching for. This person is currently living in a small village situated just north of the Ashtalan kingdom. Without wasting a single second, Alan commands Yui to prepare for an immediate departure. During the journey, Alan falls into deep, anxious thought. He internally panics about the early arrival of the outer god. In the original storyline of the game he used to play, calamitous beings bring absolute destruction. He recalls the terrible endings from the game where the allied kingdoms inevitably crumble and collapse. They would fight foolish wars on lands completely corrupted by otherworldly powers. Alan realizes that if this happens, his comfortable and wealthy life will be shattered in an instant. However, Alan quickly formulates a survival plan based on a hidden game mechanic. Whenever an outer god descends, it does not immediately possess full power. Instead, it must undergo a vulnerable stabilization period lasting several months before fully awakening. During this weakened state, they cannot exert their true strength. Alan determines that striking them during this exact window is the only viable option. He meticulously writes down a plan, seals it with purple wax, and hopes that a certain young boy will accept his upcoming offer. 1 week later, Alan and Yuban arrive at a quiet, peaceful village. They quickly spot a cheerful young boy with messy blue hair and bright eyes. Alan immediately recognizes him as Eliban, the true main character and playable protagonist of the dark fantasy world. The boy cheerfully introduces himself, completely unaware of his future destiny. Alan observes him carefully, noting that the protagonist will inevitably become famous and powerful. Instead of wasting time building a slow friendship, Alan decides on a bizarre high-speed strategy. He hands the boy a single gold coin, and then Yibin steps forward to drop a massive pile of treasures. High-tier potions, rare magic artifacts, and endless gold spill onto the ground. The young protagonist is utterly shocked by the mountain of wealth. Alan explains that this is simply an early investment to help the boy grow exceptionally strong in a very short amount of time. Internally, Alan desperately hopes the boy will level up quickly and defeat the outer gods on his behalf. Alan formally introduces himself by his noble title and urges the boy to always remember his generous patron. The young hero happily promises that he will never forget this kindness. As they leave in their carriage, Yubian expresses confusion over Alan's brief interaction with the boy. Alan thinks to himself that his very life is currently on the line, so he does not have the luxury of time to build a genuine bond. Instead, he has effectively put the main character on an automatic hunting mode using a pay-to-win strategy. Yubian then points out a strange detail. He noticed that the young boy already possessed incredibly thick, swirling mana and was wearing high-tier magical artifacts despite his ordinary clothes. Alan realizes this is a major deviation from the game's original setting, where the hero starts as a completely ordinary commoner. This butterfly effect surprises him, but he ultimately decides it is a good thing. The stronger the hero starts, the better it is for Alan's dream of an easy life. He comforts himself by remembering that Elabin is one of the very few genuinely kind-hearted people in this dark world. Shuninus utterly. A wave of pure anxiety washes over Alan. He freezes, questioning if the boy is actually as kind-hearted as he remembers. Panic sets in as he urgently asks Yuibin about a person named Deus. Looking absolutely terrified, Alan admits he never visited the orphanage because he was too scared of the consequences, and he nervously wonders aloud if the people there will even allow him to see the children. 10 days deep into the trip, the crew finally rolls up to Kurtum, the massive entrance gate to Caliban. Yebin is straight up dead on his feet from the non-stop driving and the endless highway. Our main guy keeps his cool even though the brutal commute took a lot out of him. Yebin starts whining that a wacky maze made the last leg of the trip a total nightmare. Alan grips a locket while stressing about the upcoming battle. He spent all his time stacking up power and tracking down freebies for a dude named Deus. The protagonist feels like a hyped-up dad who wants to spoil his kid rotten. Yebin steps out of the ride to get their IDs checked at the town border. The hero takes a snooze in the ride until Yebin comes back with a whack update. They're getting told to move to the side even though their papers are 100% legit. Alan hops out of the whip and confronts a knight named Varan. The cocky soldier brags about being a student under the legendary 4th Swordmaster. Varan starts trash-talking our guy and brings his squad along to flex his muscles. He mentions that a homie from the Asteria Kingdom hired him to pay back a grudge. Alan connects the dots and realizes the dude is talking about the total drama queen Carmine. He thinks this whole situation is incredibly basic and sad. A quick rewind shows Carmine crying to Viren through a magic screen. Carmine was super salty about getting clowned and begged Viren to go crash our guy. Viren just laughed it off and promised to put on a massive show for his bro. He figures he's got zero risk by picking on some small-time rich guy. Though out of nowhere, the guards whip out their blades and box in the hero and Yuban. Yuban instantly draws his own steel to play bodyguard for the boss. Alan is super annoyed that Carmine's soft behavior followed him all the way to a new country. Viren puts his blade right at our guy's chest and demands they hand over all the loot. Viren thinks he's in the clear since Alan doesn't know anyone in Caliban. The hero gets ticked off and starts cooking up a crazy fire vibe in his hand. Viren charges in to swing, but someone suddenly snatches him right by the throat. The mystery attacker snaps Viren's bones and hoists him up like a ragdoll. The guard shrieks in agony as his blade drops to the dirt. It turns out Deus is the one holding Viren by the windpipe. Deus is absolutely livid that some random thug tried to jump his #1 fan. He slams the guard into the floor and starts stomping him out with zero chill. Deus warns the rest of the squad that they're gonna catch hands too if they twitch. He kicks Varan so hard the dude coughs up blood and goes airborne. Alan watches with his jaw on the floor as he recognizes this guy as the grown-up version of Deus. The hero realizes his old student has evolved into an absolute beast. Varan can barely get up while Deus keeps landing heavy hit after heavy hit. Yuban notes that the punches are looking super clean and dangerous. Our hero is shocked because he assumed Deus had totally ghosted him over the years. He feels like a proud papa, seeing how well his kid turned out. Yuigo cracks a joke that Alan's boy is deleting a dude's health bar out in the open. The main guy plays dumb while low-key loving how loyal the kid is. He thinks Deus is being a total sweetheart for sticking up for his dad's name. But at the same time, he starts worrying that the beatdown is going a little too far. Alan suddenly remembers that Deus is actually one of the 5 mega criminals. Finally, Varan passes out cold from the brutal and heavy physical thrashing. Deus calls it quits on the beatdown, walks over and drops a respectful bow to the hero. The remaining guards are totally shook to see a powerhouse like Deus acting like a personal bodyguard. A freezing battlefield is a total graveyard after a brutal clash in the snow. Commander Delman hoists his blade to celebrate completely wiping out the big boss Kulkin and his whole crew. The Crimson Flame Knights shout at the top of their lungs, hyped over their hard-won victory against the wild tribes. Delman tells his squad to head back to camp and get ready for whatever comes next. The boss reflects on his big win and vows he won't let the new Master Knight boss him around. He knows they only won the war by playing dirty instead of fighting fair. The main chief was baited out solo and taken down by a sneaky stealth squad. Delman curses the guy who came up with the shady plan, but he still gets ready to turn in his winning report. Out of nowhere, a lone dude shows up right by the front camp, totally throwing the commander off guard. The stranger calls out Delman's name with a super dark, intense look. Pissed off, Delman swings with a burning sword, but he instantly feels a creepy, terrifying vibe. He realizes the guy standing there isn't the chief he thought he already took out. A creepy monster shadow takes shape behind the dude, who calls out the knights for ruining what should have been a sacred 1v1. Delman freezes up from pure terror as cold sweat drips down his face. He realizes this thing isn't Culkin at all, but something way more dangerous. He throws a bunch of desperate fire moves at him, but the guy dodges every single one like it's nothing. The mystery guy gives Delman one last shot at a fair fight. The commander barks orders for his knights to trap the man, but the creature just smirks. Pure dark energy pools in the guy's hands as he tells the knights they don't deserve a proper duel. He drops a nasty poison that infects all the dead bodies scattered across the floor. The fallen soldiers start screeching like zombies and begging to be put out of their misery because the pain is so bad. The man slices Delman's neck with his bare hand and slams the icy ground with insane power. A huge blast blows the rest of the knights away as a red fog fills the air. The guy then punches a straight-up hole right through Delman's chest, finishing him off for good. The man trash-talks the survivors, calling them savages, while the dead soldiers stand up to trap the living ones. He announces that a bloody arena match is kicking off just as the tribal god Ultulrus comes down. Ultulrus demands the knights prove they aren't just wild animals by throwing hands. As blood literally pours from the clouds, the story cuts back to the city entrance. Delman drops a respectful bow and offers to lead the way for Alon, leaving all the nearby guards completely speechless. They can't believe a top-tier fighter would bow his head to some random foreign lord. Deus is notorious for only being nice to the king, and he even thrashed a royal prince once. The guards start scratching their heads, wondering who Alon actually is to get that kind of treatment. Our main guy feels a bit stressed by all the eyeballs on him as he gets invited into a super fancy ride. They pull up to a gigantic glowing mansion that Alon thinks looks exactly like a massive crab. On the inside, the vibe is totally quiet and heavy. Alon decides to just keep it real about his plans to show Deus some proper respect. The protagonist steps into the room and asks Deus for a solid favor, which catches the young guy off guard. Deus instantly agrees to jump in, realizing this is a polite ask instead of a harsh command. They sit down for tea in a super awkward, stiff silence. Alon notes to himself that he low-key loves being treated like a proud dad. The hero breaks the ice by tossing out 2 heavy favors to the young fighter. He explains that he has to make a trip up north and suggests they team up for the ride. Deus gets genuinely hyped and shares that he was already putting together a northern trip himself. Alon breathes a sigh of relief that his first big ask went down so smoothly with his old student. The main guy then drops the second, way riskier favor concerning the king's vault. He explains that he needs to get his hands on a specific magic item known as the Madman's Ring. The knight drops a salute at the pad and reports that the escort gig went perfectly. He mentions that Devs handled the security for Count Palacio himself, making sure the whole ride was smooth sailing. Siley, Devs' little sis, walks in and puts 2 and 2 together that their guest must be a major VIP. Everybody in the house is super curious about this big-shot noble from the Asteria Kingdom. Alon sits down with Dewa and asks to borrow the Madman's Ring straight out of the king's vault. He's low-key stressing, and a little sweat pops up on his face from the pressure. He knows asking for this is a massive deal that could put him in the king's debt. But without blinking an eye, Dewa says he's down to help his favorite guy out. Doors, Yubin steps into the room hauling some fancy glowing boxes and says sorry for running late. Alon hands over the loot to Deus, highly recommending a sharp-looking gemstone tie. Deus takes the gear but says he's gonna wait until he's solo to unwrap everything. Our main guy panics for a second, thinking the present might be a total flop, but he realizes Deus is showing him crazy respect because of their tight history. He offers to cover the bill for any mess made by asking for the ring. Deus promises to swipe the magic item from the vault double time. The hero feels super grateful, seeing that his old student is ready to go to bat for him no matter what. Siley dashes to the room and runs straight to Yubin, hugging him like a brother. Alon is thrown off by how hyped they are, then remembers he actually told Yubin to rescue her back in the day. In the actual video game, Siley caught a tragic ending, but here she's alive and kicking. Spotting her reminds our guy how much she looks just like her brother. Out of nowhere, Demis goes ice cold and yanks his sister away from Yebion's friendly vibe. He barks at Yebion to use a proper title and quit acting like they're buddies. A dark, creepy energy flares up around Demis as he tells Yebion to shut his mouth. The whole room instantly gets super tense and awkward for everybody. Dalman finally hits him that Demis is only nice to him because he saved Siley's life. He'd been so focused on rewriting the future that he totally forgot about this deep bond. Siley steps up to thank the hero for ordering her rescue all those years ago. She drops a grateful bow, giving Alon a genuine warm and fuzzy feeling. Just a single day later, Delman rolls back in and hands over the Madman's Ring. Alon is totally blown away that the kid raided a royal vault that fast. Yebram bursts in and spills the tea that Delman caused a massive scene at the treasury. He actually slapped the second prince across the face a few times just to grab the ring. 3 days later, Alon links up with the Solar Eclipse Knights for the road trip up north. 2 weeks fly by, and the crew gets hit with awful news from the northern front line. Squads are getting completely wrecked, and creepy monsters are butchering soldiers in the frozen zones. The army camp is a total mess as the bosses argue about running away. Dallin shuts up the yelling officers and talks about the ugly situation with the fourth sword master Folia. Pretty much all the top-tier fighters are dead or messed up bad by the cosmic entity. Folia thinks they need to bounce because of a creepy red fog spreading close by. Only the absolute strongest warriors can even feel the weird distortion in the air. Dalman spots some smoke close by and finds Alan just chilling, roasting a sweet potato over an open flame. The hero looks totally unfazed by all the death and chaos ruining the camp. Right next to them, the smart boss of the Blue Magic Tower is arguing with soldiers about her homework. She's only there to check out tribal rituals and refuses to help the hurt troops. The Magic Tower boss gets annoyed and tells Deus to get out of her lane, but she suddenly freezes up and starts shaking like a leaf when she catches Alan checking her out. She stares at him with a totally frozen face and demands to know what he's doing there. The hero just glares back with a super calm, piercing look. Delman gives a casual wave to Pedia, the vice commander, and flags her over. She walks up to him shaking like a leaf and nervously mumbles that a specific med is totally out of stock. Our guy says he gets it, but his letdown look makes Pedia panic and flip her script. She quickly promises she can actually whip up the medicine, even if it takes forever. The main guy admits his wallet is looking pretty light and asks if he can put it on his tab. Pedia is so freaked out that she agrees to take just 1 gold coin for the whole thing. Her crew is totally floored to see her smiling after getting scammed out of a massive payday. She rushes off to mix the potion right away, leaving the other magic users impressed by her weirdly high grind. Dalman goes back to munching his sweet potato until a massive wave of creepy dark energy takes over the air. Deus senses a raid incoming and barks orders for his troops to get into their defensive spots. A swarm of dead bodies rushes out from the shadows and starts slaughtering guards without blinking. The soldiers push back hard, cursing the zombies as they hack through the endless waves of bad guys. Deya pulls out her heavy magic to solo a bunch of the corpses with perfect aim. Once the first wave clears, a terrifying dude named Paola steps out from a massive, loud explosion. He calls out the troops for having 0 honor, while lightning wraps around his body. One guard tries to shank him, but the blade doesn't leave even a tiny mark. Connell deletes the soldier's head instantly, proving that basic weapons can't touch his soul. While everyone else watches frozen in fear, Alan stays totally cool and speaks directly to the big god of duels. He brings up an ancient sacred promise and officially challenges Paola to a Babylon showdown. The cosmic god laughs like a maniac before locking it in and waking up the dead bodies once more. The red ring forms around the two brawlers, creating a private arena that nobody else can step into. Alon feels a sudden spike of panic as he notices Paola is super close to his final form. He knows the god's power is almost on par with the 5 top criminals at this point. Our hero only manages to stay on his feet because he chugged a premium potion right before the clash. The turn-based brawl kicks off, following strict rules where players swap turns for every hit and block. Paola gets the first move and drops a devastating attack called the Song of Ruin. Rule number 2 says the defender can't twitch an inch when it's not their turn. The god hypes up the hero's bravery as he gets ready to smash him with insane power. Alan burns every bit of his magic to beef up his shields for round 1. A dark energy explodes from his hands as he braces for the impact of the god's strike. The massive blow hits with a crazy explosion, completely hiding our guy inside a massive cloud of smoke. Padia and Deus watch with heavy hearts, stressing that the hero got wiped out instantly. When the dust settles, Alan is still breathing behind a cracked magic shield circle. His body is totally wrecked and his gear is broken, but the yellow drink keeps him awake. A quick flashback shows Pedia handing him 2 special drinks to handle crazy pain and bypass his body's limits. The hero notes to himself that his strategy is going exactly to plan as he gets ready to strike back. The high-grade potion lets the protagonist move his limbs even though he's severely hurt. He goes into beast mode and triggers a binding summon power to keep the brawl alive. The ring on his finger lights up with a blinding glow as he sets up his very first counterstrike. A game alert pops up, telling the Savage One to show what he's made of in the Big Babylon Showdown. Alon points out that these strict rules are actually meant to lock down the cosmic boss's mobility. After barely tanking that first killer hit thanks to a revival charm and health drinks, Alon gets ready to spark the Ring of Radiance. To turn it on, he has to be right on the edge of kicking the bucket and spell out his limitations. Since this is a holy 1v1, Alan can't play defense or strike back like usual. Instead, he starts hacking the system by locking in 4 weirdly specific rules for himself. Casting spells on snowy ground. Casting spells while staring death in the face. Throwing hands with a literal god. Casting spells meant only for the big boss of duels. With every rule that clicks into place, Alan's energy levels skyrocket, ending in a massive blast of purple lightning. A giant explosion rattles the whole field. When the smoke finally blows away, a massive hole is ripped clean through Earth Ultis's chest. Still, the god stays on his feet and chuckles, trash-talking the failed hit but giving Alan props for carrying that will. Chilling on the smashed dirt, Ultis admits he actually took the ill and gets ready to fade away. He mentions he's curious to see the upcoming drama between the black thing and the blue thing. As a victory prize, he hands Alan his personal magic strap, the Belt of the Forgotten, which doubles both the damage you give and the damage you take. Right before ghosting, he drops his real government name, the God of Chaos. The trip wraps up and the squad heads back to the capital. Pedia, the magic vice boss, is left totally freaked out and lost after Alon grills her about those black and blue things. She books it out of the ride in a total panic. Meanwhile, Deus checks in with the king and gives back the Ring of Radiance, as Alon packs up to head back to his own turf, now filthy rich again from the king's bonus cash. Deus asks if he'll ever level up to be as cracked as Alon. Alon, secretly a little salty about Deus's insane natural skills, tells him that keeping up the grind will make him a beast. When Deus asks why Alon only ever asks nicely for favors instead of barking commands, Alon just drops a line: "You don't boss around your own family." Alone in his ride, Alon bursts into a giant goofy crying fit, feeling totally slept on for all the hard-earned cash and pure love he poured into leveling Deus up. Back at his own base, Deus awkwardly tries to copy Alon's magic hand moves, smiling because he's finally locked in as family. After 3 whole months on the road, Alon finally rolls back to his pad, literally crying tears of pure relief as he steps into his safe space. Totally wiped out, he tries to hunt down his bedroom but accidentally crashes into his home office instead. He is hit right in the face by a terrifying mountain of unsigned papers and abandoned files. After slamming the door shut in total disgust and trying to run away from his chores, he eventually has to suck it up and face the paperwork. Looking for a little prize after all that grinding, Alon takes a week-long break, but his brain is so hardwired to the hustle that he can't even unwind. His mind keeps drifting back to the mysteries of the cosmic boss, the god of chaos, and that forgotten name that sounds like ancient Eastern gods. He checks his homework notes, which bring up inheriting a holy will and the old-school city of Kahala, specifically the Colon Dungeon. He realizes this spot is fated to be found 3 years before the game's main plot actually kicks off, which happens to be this exact year. While Alon is piecing this together, Yeben walks in to drop the news that a secret city was actually just found in Kelowna. Meanwhile, the 5 Sins hold their twice-a-year Blue Moon meeting through a magic crystal ball. Usually the quiet type, Deus suddenly speaks up to recap Alon's big fight in Caliburn. His quick recap turns into a brutal 3-hour lecture packed with tiny details and endless hype for the Great Moon. While Yui is absolutely loving it, the rest of the crew, Raiden, Seolang, and Ryan, are left totally drained and begging him to stop. Back at his mansion, Alon finds himself swimming in crazy expensive presents and high-tier magic items from random rich folks. He realizes these freebies are all thanks to his tie with Deus, so he figures he might as well pocket the loot. By the time summer rolls around, the gifts finally slow down, and Alon gets ready to head out to the big meeting in the capital of Asteria. Dots are arriving late and hoping to just blend into the background. Alon tries to grab a seat way in the back, but the intense creepy stares from the other rich snobs force him to keep moving up until he's sitting straight up in the front row. The meeting kicks off with a massive update. A brand new squad called Kalpa has officially been given voting power. When the speaker calls out for Count Palacio, the boss of Kalpa, Alon is left in total confusion. Spotting Alita and Kaya smiling at each other, the truth hits him. They teamed up, and to his absolute horror, they put his name down as the leader of this massive new villain crew. Up in a freezing northern wasteland, a guy in a cloak treks through brutal, icy winds. He stops on a dime and looks over the empty land with a creepy smile. The man stares at a giant trench left behind from a previous god-level battle. He notes to himself that our main guy is starting to get noticed by some seriously heavy hitters. From far away, Alon is dealing with a totally different mess inside a packed meeting room. A bunch of people had built a political squad around him and were begging for a speech. The hero is low-key having a panic attack because he just wants a quiet life. He used to be a regular office worker and has zero interest in being the boss. The chairman totally misreads the hero's frozen silence as him being super cool and collected. The room goes wild with celebrations, banners, and bright confetti flying everywhere. While the rich folks cheer his name, the main guy feels like he's trapped in a nightmare. He finally realizes he's just being used as a flashy mascot for the squad. Later on, 2 big-shot duchesses walk up to the hero during the after-party. They talk to him like he's some sort of genius mastermind who mapped out the whole plan. It feels like one day these girls are going to misread his letter and straight up offer their cunt to this count. Alon is completely lost because he barely even knows these 2 powerful women. They thank him for saving their skins, leaving him scratching his head trying to figure out why. The hero flashes back to a polite apology note he typed up a while ago. His basic office worker corporate talk had been completely misunderstood by everyone. His vague lines about trust were misread as top-secret orders to recruit new members. The truth hits him. All those expensive gifts he got were actually applications to join his crew. The protagonist feels totally defeated knowing his humble vibes were mistaken for massive ambition. He worries that trying to set the record straight now will look like a total backstab. To keep himself safe, the hero decides to just keep playing along like he's in charge. He drops a vague comment about cleaning up the criminal underworld. The rich folks take his words as a bold blueprint for the future. Alon quickly makes an excuse and books it toward his waiting ride. He checks that a letter was sent out and barks orders at his driver to hit the gas. The duchesses watch him roll out, 100% convinced that he is a hidden genius. Lurking in the shadows, a hitman named Cygnus tracks down his target's whip. He's hunting Count Palladio, but knows this gig won't be a walk in the park. The killer was already warned about a beast of a night playing bodyguard for the Count. Even with the danger, he feels super confident because the payday is massive. The hit was ordered at a pad south of the ActionToon kingdom. Sinus had met up with Carmine, who acted insanely arrogant. To flex his skills, the assassin took out the guards in the room on the spot. The client then handed over a rare high-tier item called an Abyss Cube. This magic item was worth way more than regular gear used for power-ups. Sinus instantly clocks its value and locks in the assassination contract. Later, he pays a visit to a dude named Seeker, the big boss of the underworld. Seeker gives the green light for the hit by totally ignoring the stolen cube. Seeker already knows all about the rising squad led by the protagonist's secret identity. He's just glad someone else is stepping up to delete a potential rival. Meanwhile, Alon and Yaban are cruising through a forest in their ride. They have absolutely zero clue that Cygnus is hovering right above them, getting ready to pounce. Puana the hitman uses a magic feather pen to charge up a deadly strike, but in the blink of an eye, his hands are chopped clean off by an invisible force. Cygnus gets slammed straight into the dirt by a massive laser beam. The blast leaves the killer totally broken and completely defenseless. Elban steps out from the dark shadows right under the bright moonlight. The night is totally chill despite just pulling off a crazy violent move. He wraps up the execution double time, tearing the hitman apart with zero effort. After snapping the killer's magic tool, the knight ghosts into the night. 5 days after hitting the road from the capital, Alon finally rolls into a brutal southern desert. The blazing sun is beating down on the crew, making every breath feel like straight-up fire. Yuibin fakes being completely miserable just to get some attention, but our main guy totally blocks him out. The hero had intentionally stalled the trip just to score a gift and link up with a safe travel crew. While checking out the other travelers, Alon spots a girl named Leon giving him the side-eye. She is a magic user's daughter and acts super sketchy and bratty toward the hero. He chooses to just ignore her trash talk because he doesn't want to waste his breath. The protagonist focuses on getting across the sand dunes safely so they can say goodbye for good. Later that night, a crew of savage raiders pulls a surprise ambush on the camp. The sand quickly turns into a crime scene as the hired muscle gets wiped out. A big shot boss snatches Leon, who completely freezes up from pure terror. Just when things look totally hopeless, the air turns ice cold and frost takes over the sand. Alon steps up as freezing energy pours out from his magic wristband. With just one word, the entire desert flips into a frozen tundra. The raider boss tries to swing, but the hero freezes him mid-jump and shatters him to pieces. The rest of the thugs run for their lives after witnessing our guy's insane power. The survivors hype Alon up by treating him to premium snacks and drinks. The hero thinks back to the tricky ice spells he spent months mastering. Leon walks over and drops a deep bow to say sorry for being a jerk earlier. She asks if they can talk shop about magic, and the hero is surprised to find he actually likes it. After another week on the road, the squad finally hits the city of Colony. Leon invites the protagonist to visit her red magic tower before they split up. Alon realizes he already has stuff to take care of at that exact spot, making the timing perfect. Out of nowhere, a huge blast rocks the floor and sends junk flying in all directions. A lightning-fast shadow blurs past and quickly deletes the attackers in the area. It turns out to be Xiao Lang, who rolls up with a giant grin and a wagging golden tail. She locks onto Alon's arm super hyped, saying she's been waiting forever for him to show up. The hero is completely stunned as she drags him away while the confused crowd just watches it happen. Xiao Lang happily leads Alon and Yamben into her guild base, which is packed with her loyal crew. The members give her a major shout-out as their big boss with tons of hype and total respect. A dude named Raul checks in to report that everything is running perfectly inside the squad. He welcomes the main guy and Yaban, as the VIP guest Xiao Lang had already hyped up. The guild boss hops right onto a table and energetically tells her guests to take a seat. Alon notices how much she looks out for her crew, treating every single one of them like family. The protagonist signals Yuban to pull out a massive pile of gifts for the hyped-up girl. Yulong flexes the essence of the Golden Mane tribe to put on right away. This gear is seriously cracked, boosting the user's critical hit rate by 20%. Alon thinks about how the sin of pride can either make someone legendary or totally ruin them. He feels super relieved and proud, comparing himself to a dad leveling up his kids. The guild leader insists Alon get some sleep after his trip and walks him to her private room. They chat about how basic the desert is and the raider ambush they had to deal with. When Alon brings up the Blood Sand crew, Sealong just drops a knowing smirk. The story cuts away to reveal that she had already completely wiped out the entire raider squad. Kron Sealong had tracked down the final survivor, who bragged about being the brother of a major powerhouse. She totally ignored his trash talk about his protection and ended him without blinking. The next morning, she proudly brags to Alon about her nighttime slaughter and asks for a pat on the back. The hero is completely floored that she single-handedly deleted hundreds of elite fighters in one night. Alon realizes Xiao Lang's title of Baba Yaga is 100% legit and terrifying. Meanwhile, in a nearby arena, a champion named Kalman is busy wrecking all his opponents. He is the longest-standing Baba Yaga and rules the colony with pure brute strength. Raul hits him with the news about the raider massacre, but Kalman doesn't care at all about his brother's death. Kalman only saw his brother as a basic tool to control the local mafia. He then hands Raul a high-tier magic item from the Seeker called Father of All. This freebie grants insane power and is meant to mess up the king's rule by starting total chaos. 2 days later, Alon heads toward the old-school city of Kahura with a guild escort. The main guy reaches a historic spot and steps into the ancient ruins solo. He hears a creepy voice calling out his name from deep inside the city's shadows. A figure steps out and tells Alon he has the bare minimum stats to even stand there. The mystery entity explains that the system judges people based on their rank. He warns that outside trouble is heading their way and tells Alon he has to deal with it. Ulthul finds it hilarious that a cracked magic user has finally shown up after all this time. He breaks down that real magic is just a rule forced onto the universe by a mage's pure willpower. Alon realizes he has never even heard of the universe's natural system. The entity calls out the hero's confusion but barks at him to follow the playbook. He announces that he is personally going to coach the protagonist on how to sling proper magic. Outside the cave, Siolang gets super worried because Alon is taking too much time, so she suddenly sprints back to her base at full speed. She rolls up only to find Kalman brutally beating down her crew right inside the guild house. Furious, the fox charges at him, calling him out for taking his shameless violence outside the fighting arena. Kalman just laughs it off, claiming he's just getting even for his dead little brother. The bad guy dashes forward to wipe out her crew, but Siolang blocks him with a thunderous shockwave. Kalman easily dodges the hit, smirking as he makes fun of her basic defensive moves. Just as the girl's anger hits its peak, a dagger suddenly stabs her right in the back. She turns around in total shock to find Ralgo, her own trusted homie, laughing at his own betrayal. Siolang can't believe her own people would snake her after years of love and kindness. She had always dreamed of gathering her squad to win back the happiness a dragon took from them. Raldo shrugs off their history as totally fake and tells Kalman to finish her off double time. The traitor had used a Dark Abyss power-up to boost his strength way past his normal limits. A massive blast goes off as Siolang's magic power clashes with Kalman's heavy punch. She jumps away to dodge Raug's next swing, annoying the traitors with her quick reflexes. Even with his boosted stats, Raug realizes he still can't match the heroine's level. Kalman spots Alon walking up and decides to snatch the hero as a hostage to flip the script. Raug talks smack to Siolang as a deadly venom from his blade starts spreading inside her. He claims the guild only stayed loyal to her because she got lucky with her powers. The girl insists they were a real family, but Raug calls in the rest of the turncoats. Just as he moves to steal her energy, a sudden magic blast from Alon shuts down his plan. The main guy hits both villains, totally shocking Raug with how heavy his energy feels. Alon notices the black magic smoke and wonders why high-level abyss monsters are showing up this early in the game. He treats Siolang with a premium potion to help her fight off the paralyzing venom. The hero reassures her that most of her crew is probably still on her side. Kromtharling charges forward to punish Raug while Alon turns on his Ice Flake shield. He mixes his powers together, remembering the old-school lessons about building real magic logic. The hero lets loose a massive spell that the ancient entity recognizes as an ice spear. The shadow figure chuckles, noting that modern casuals have completely forgotten its real name. He corrects the phrasing, calling the protagonist's devastating move the Ice Crystal Spear. Alon uses this lost ancient power to hack the system and rewrite the rules of the world against his enemies. Right in the middle of all that escalating drama, Alon dropped his ultimate move. Without a single warning, his Ice Blast shot forward at Raoju with such blinding speed that dodging was practically impossible. The ice spear drilled straight into Raug's chest, blasting him backward as if his very existence had been summarily deleted from the world. Siolang and Yaban could only stand there with their jaws on the floor. The entire zone had been frozen solid. The dirt, the air, and Ralga himself were locked in place, looking exactly like someone had just hit pause on reality. It looked like an effortlessly easy win until Ralga twitched his lips, bitterly muttering that this spectacular display changed absolutely nothing. Instinctively, Siolang dropped her guard for just a fraction of a second, and Ralga seized it, charging forward with a poison knife drawn. Fueling his desperate attack with the golden power he was still siphoning from her, he blurred across the battlefield at an insane speed. Xiolang's body, already battered and exhausted, was simply too slow to escape the impending strike. Caught at the absolute last second, Alon moved on pure instinct. He yanked Siolang backward just in time to dodge the fatal hit, but immediately after, dark blood spilled from his own mouth. Seeing him injured sent Siolang completely over the edge. Blinded by pure unadulterated rage, she stomped her foot down and crushed Rauga's head, deleting the traitor entirely. Yubi screamed in a total panic, but as it turned out, Alon was actually perfectly fine. The poisoned blade had only managed to rip his clothes, dealing 0 physical damage. He was coughing blood simply because executing that massive ice spell had totally drained his magic reserves, leaving him with temporary internal damage. As the dust finally settled, Alon realized his spell had been overwhelmingly strong because Ralga had absorbed dark power, technically elevating the traitor to a godlike being. Pushing the tactical thoughts aside, Alon noticed Siolang looking uncharacteristically quiet, carrying the heavy sadness of her family's betrayal. Before he could even check on her, she wanted to know why he had chosen to save her instead of just dodging the attack. Hiding the thoroughly embarrassing truth that his legs had been too frozen by fear to actually move out of the way, Alon smoothly lied. He claimed he did it because he completely trusted her, adding the simple, heartfelt truth that one never really needs a reason to save their family. Xiulang suddenly blushes super hard and gets way too close, telling him she wants them to be a real family forever. Our hero thinks he is finally getting that sweet stepfather appreciation he deserves, but then she aggressively asks him to marry her, leaving Alon completely frozen in total shock. 5 days fly by, and the whole town finds out the old arena boss was a total coward. Xiulang scoops up all the street respect and officially gets crowned the new Baba Yaga of the colony. She spends her free time aggressively clinging to Alon's arm, begging him to tie the knot like a totally obsessed fan. Our boy sighs, realizing he can't just swipe left on this clingy behavior, dealing with her asking for the 19th time. He throws out a weak yes just to shut her up, praying she drops the whole marriage idea before he skips town. The crew packs up the carriage and hits the road, leaving Xiulang behind to walk up the stairs of her new empire. Inside the ride, Yubin reports that the spy network cleared out all the leftover traitors, leaving 0 loose ends. Alon praises his one-eyed bodyguard, feeling like a proud dad who needs a better security team for his own soft neck. He remembers the shadow boss telling him to check the eastern end of the old fortress to boost his power. Our hero reads a dusty stone tablet, easily decoding the ancient text about honor, greed, and the many-handed freaks. Bloody realizes the writing describes the outer gods but gets super stressed because the history is completely flipped backward. Yui interrupts his history homework to drop massive updates on the rest of the crazy adopted kids. Davis became the top blade master in 6 months. Ryan is a full-blown cutthroat politician, and Radan is the supreme pirate king. Our boy's jaw drops, realizing his little squad of menaces is completely taking over the entire map. Far away, Yudia watches through a crystal ball as Xiulang brags about marrying their boss, causing the white-haired psycho to completely snap into a violent, bloodthirsty rage. Right after dropping that massive marriage bombshell, Xiulang gets totally unhinged and screams into her crystal ball that she is tying the knot with her great moon. She aggressively hypes up their future as the ultimate power couple, while Yui watches from the other side, barely holding back her absolute rage. The creepy white-haired girl completely shuts down the foxy fantasy, coldly reminding Xiulang that they are just dirty little shadows. Xiulang refuses to take the massive L, clapping back that even a shadow can secure the bag and get a ring. Yui Go glares straight through the orb with glowing red eyes, angrily barking that shadows belong in the dark and can never stand by their boss's side. The yellow-haired girl cowers for a split second before crying out that Alan's opinion is the only thing that actually matters in this twisted love triangle. Yui drops a brutal, mockingly toxic smile and asks if the hero would actually ever pick a stray dog like her. Desperate to flex, Xiulang instantly brings up a flashback where she asked Alan if he hated her, and he nervously stuttered that he didn't. Yui and Daewis are totally shook by this spicy little update, demanding to know what exactly went down between her and their idol. Xiulang just smirks with zero shame, acting like she already won the entire waifu war with that weak little interaction. Out of nowhere, Daeus totally ignores the romantic drama and starts glazing Alan's insane aura from their battle 6 months ago. He completely praises the main guy, admitting he was too weak to even sense the protagonist's real power back then. Daeus hypes himself up into a total frenzy, vowing to slaughter every abyssal monster alive just to become a weapon worthy of his master. Xiulang catches his totally unhinged fanboy energy and starts screaming that she feels the exact same way. 2 entire hours of non-stop glazing later, Daeus finally realizes he has been rambling like a crazy person and tries to wrap up his speech. Yui violently cuts him off to scream that the marriage is cancelled, sparking a totally unhinged shouting match where the fox just keeps screaming yes. While the crazy kids argue, Ryan calmly writes down the official squad minutes, noting they should never ever let Daeus talk about their boss again. She also casually jots down that Yui throws literal baby tantrums whenever another girl tries to claim their holy leader. The scene cuts away to a sketchy back alley in the capital, where 2 crusty old politicians plot a massive political takedown. Marquis Phil Boyd asks Duke Rimgrave if they can actually wipe out the rising Kalpa gang that is totally ruining their corrupt little lives. The Duke smiles like a total snake and reveals a heavy plan to beg the Holy Kingdom for a super illegal transnational hit piece called a Letter of Reformation. He explains that if they can just bribe 2 greedy cardinals to stamp the paper, they can officially brand anyone they want as a totally doomed heretic. Phil Boyd is completely down for the dirty work and asks how to secure the bag, to which the Duke casually replies they just need to split a massive bribe. The 2 boomer politicians happily clink their whiskey glasses, totally convinced their shady little scheme is going to be a guaranteed massive win. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a glowing purple cathedral where a sketchy cardinal approaches his co-worker to talk some serious illegal business. Cardinal Sergius drops the fake holy act instantly and demands to borrow his partner's authority to totally frame Count Palladio for heresy. Sergius smirks, promising that faking the criminal evidence will be a total walk in the park since the target already looks guilty anyway. He confidently spins around to ask the other holy official for their final answer, completely unaware he is talking to the absolute worst person alive. Yui steps right out of the dark shadows wearing her gothic dress, her eyes glowing with pure, unhinged murder intent. The white-haired psycho softly repeats his dirty little plan, asking if he seriously just tried to use her own name to destroy her beloved Alan. Sergius totally misreads the room and tries to blackmail her, threatening to expose her for icing another cardinal unless she lets him keep the entire bribe money. He gets totally lost in his own greedy sauce, literally daydreaming about a massive harem of women while standing right in front of a literal demon. In a split second, Yui completely snaps and impales the corrupt priest with massive, terrifying red magic spikes that rip right through his holy robes. She screams at the absolute top of her lungs, utterly disgusted that this filthy mortal just asked her to assassinate her own personal god. Giant creepy tentacles and glowing red eyes flood the entire cathedral as Sergius screams in absolute agony. The violent girl coldly tells him to scream as loud as he wants because nobody is coming to save his pathetic life. The greedy cardinal begs for a quick death, crying and coughing up blood while Yui endlessly electrocutes him with her dark red energy. He completely shatters under the torture, pleading for any kind of mercy, while the psycho girl just smiles down at his totally broken body. Yui steps right on him and whispers that she won't let him die because he still has a very special job to do for her. She commands him to suffer and understand his massive sins, making sure he completely regrets ever plotting against the main guy. A whole month after the brutal desert trip, the scene transitions to a sunny daytime view of the massive Kalpa headquarters. Inside the fancy mansion, Alan holds a fresh document and mentally cries about how much he hates being a political boss. He aggressively complains about being way too lazy to deal with cosmic gods and messy turf wars when he just wants to sleep. Yebit totally calls him out for carrying that exact same acceptance letter everywhere for 2 straight weeks like a massive nerd. Our boy defends his weird obsession, admitting the official boss certificate came with an absolutely massive, ungodly allowance of pure gold coins. He gets so hyped about his new fat wallet that he starts aggressively posing with his leader Sash, suddenly preaching about power and responsibility. Alan walks out carrying giant shopping bags, totally willing to forgive the corrupt system since it just made him filthy rich overnight. He smiles like a total goofball, claiming that heavy retail therapy and cold hard cash are the absolute best cures for a wounded soul. Later that night, the scene switches to a super fancy reception hall packed with merchants, priests, and rich snobs trying to network. Alan spots Kalia and Loria holding expensive drinks and mentally panics because he desperately wants to avoid these powerful, intimidating women. Our hero pastes on a fake smile to greet them, silently begging the universe to let him escape this incredibly awkward social trap. While he awkwardly nibbles on a snack, Yuban slides up and whispers some juicy gossip about the royalist leader catching a nasty heresy charge. Yui, our protagonist, feels super relieved, thinking he totally dodged a bullet by never messing with those particular political heavyweights. Out of absolutely nowhere, Marquise Philboyd bursts into the party looking completely beaten up, sweating buckets, and absolutely losing his mind. The old politician drops straight to his knees right in front of Alan, loudly begging for his life while the entire fancy crowd gasps in pure shock. Alan just stands there chewing his food with a completely blank face. Taki and the Loria are totally gagged, thinking Alan is some massive mastermind who just completely crushed his rival. We cut to a quick flashback showing Philboyd sweating bullets over a creepy conversion letter that popped up a few days ago. The letter came with a glowing ball showing Duke Rimgrave getting absolutely cooked by a sacred moon illusion before shattering with a violent warning. The cursed orb told the boomer politician he was next on the chopping block, making him realize his entire career was completely cooked. Back in the present, the old man promises to quit politics forever if Alan just calls off the hit, leaving our hero totally clueless about what is even happening. 3 days later, Alan and his loyal knight hit the road to attend a massive nerd convention out east for magic users. Yeben casually mentions Philboyd ran away and asks if Alan sent the scary letter, making our boy panic because he literally has zero idea how to do that. Yeben totally misunderstood Alan's previous words about being lenient, assuming his boss was just acting humble while pulling off a mafia-style threat. Meanwhile, way over in the city of Labyrinths, some basic guild members are hyping up a sketchy raid on the 20th floor. The Iron Blood Guild leader takes a suspicious job just because the bag was too heavy to ignore, bragging about his high-level dungeon clears. The squad spots a tiny green dude on the supposedly safe floor and immediately starts roasting his goofy outfit, thinking it is just a basic goblin. They plan to easily clap the little guy for some quick gold, completely unaware they just walked right into a literal boss fight. The green demon calls them noisy cockroaches and instantly wipes the floor with the entire crew using massive magic wind blades. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally arrives at the massive magic tower, completely shook that the central building is literally built like the Eiffel Tower. Lina rolls up looking like an absolute snack and offers to give him a private tour, while poor Yuban gets sent straight to the waiting room. Inside, they spot Pydia screaming at some random green mages, flexing her high rank and acting like a total arrogant brat. The second she spots Alan, she completely short-circuits, bowing so fast she almost breaks her neck just to say hello. The green mages are totally dumbfounded, literally rubbing their eyes because they think her sudden respect is some kind of wild illusion spell. Alan awkwardly suggests that mages should probably just get along instead of fighting in the public hallways. Pina instantly spins around, loudly begs for friendship, and then literally uses a high-tier lightning step skill to sprint away from the embarrassment. Linen laughs at the crazy girl's sudden manners, right before the elevator dings and a creepy blonde dude named Baruch steps out. This purple-eyed Nepo baby immediately tries to spit some weak game at Linen, who shuts him down faster than a dropped connection. Linen warns Allen that Baruch is just a rank 4 fraud who constantly steals other people's homework just to look smart. Allen is secretly super salty that this annoying rich kid is already a high rank while he is still grinding his own stats. Our boy hits the 38th floor library, surrounded by floating books, ready to cheat the system with some easy sequence breaks. He quickly hacks a giant clock by setting all the hands to 12, completely skipping a super annoying time-gated quest step. Then he just casually shoves his hand into a blank black book and pulls out the legendary Ring of Radiance like it is absolutely nothing. The very next day at the duel grounds, Allen gets completely blindsided by a public combat challenge from Baruch, instantly ruining his peaceful vibe. Right outside the arena, Leon apologizes to Allen, admitting that Baruch keeps aggressively hitting on her and begging for marriage. That blonde Nepo baby struts up completely full of himself, smirking as he asks the great outer god Slayer for a few pointers. Baruch secretly thinks Alon is just a basic rank 3 fraud, planning to use our boy as a stepping stone to boost his own fake clout. He calls it a friendly duel and mocks the hero, asking if he has cold feet. Alon just glares at this walking dumpster fire, remembering the golden rule to always give haters a reason to cry, and instantly accepts the challenge. Stepping into the massive battle ring, the referee strictly bans all lethal magic before screaming for them to begin. Baruch immediately flexes his glowing purple magic pole, desperately wanting to end the fight before everyone realizes his skills are completely trash. But before the rich kid can even swing, his feet get completely glued to the floor by thick freezing ice. Yelan casually snaps his fingers, dropping a massive blizzard spell called Glory of the Snowy Mountains straight onto his frozen head. Just a few minutes before this brutal beatdown, a group of green mages were totally doubting Elang, judging his tiny mana capacity while gossiping about Pedia's apology. Back in the present, those same haters watch in pure horror as Elang perfectly spins up a rank 5 triple combined magic attack called Crystal Rotation. A violent ice tornado completely swallows Baruch, making the crowd scream that Allen just dropped an illegal killing curse from the Violet Tower. The blonde fraud gets totally packed up and deep frozen, leaving the announcer no choice but to declare our boy the absolute winner. The second the match ends, a swarm of thirsty mages surround Allen, begging to know how he pulled off those ancient hand signs. Our hero realizes he went way too hard for a rank 3 scrub, so he quickly makes an excuse and literally rolls away from the fan club. Finally finding a quiet hallway, Alon admires his spiky black ring, geeking out over how it let him hack the game's strict daily magic limits. He realizes that stringing ancient magic words together is basically just typing cheat codes into the universe, completely hyping him up for his midnight heist. Later that night, the scene shifts to the spooky 38th floor library, where floating books spin around in the dark. A creepy voice echoes out, praising Allen for showing up on time and surviving the first puzzle without completely losing his mind. Our hero just flexes back, smoothly telling the hidden boss that he came upstairs to solve the rest of her little games. The mysterious voice chuckles at his insane confidence, totally amused that a basic player isn't crying from pure terror yet. The system hypes up the mystery boss as Archmage Heinkel, the terrifying cup of the primordial, and the first human to hit rank 8. Allen starts sweating bullets because real gamers know this short blue-haired loli is actually the infamous Retry Witch, who literally one-taps players for breathing wrong. She floats down looking like a tiny snack in a blue dress. Ellen stares at his brutal dialogue options, knowing that if he accidentally calls her a messy milk drinker, his entire run is completely cooked. But feeling her crushing god-level pressure, Ellen secretly charges up some dark magic behind his back just in case things get completely violent. He tries to sound cool, asking for the next riddle, but Heinkel suddenly spots his dark energy and completely loses her tiny mind. The supposedly terrifying boss squeaks in absolute terror, crying like a baby as she literally physically throws a glowing treasure chest right at his face. She turns into a cloud of smoke and ghosts the library entirely, leaving our boy confused. Bored after that friendly beatdown, Ellen chills at the magic conference, hitting up as many nerd tables as he can to steal free knowledge. He sits next to Lion, who is basically a walking cheat code for mana control. She leans in close and asks for the 15th time if he is really just a basic rank 3 scrub. Allen sighs, tired of the constant flexing, and starts thinking he needs to step up his game to rank 4. Suddenly, massive news drops that a wild outer god just spawned in the Labyrinth City, so Allen immediately orders Yeben to pack their bags double time. Right as our boy is about to dip, Pedia runs up to his carriage looking absolutely hyped instead of sad. The blue-haired girl stutters out a quick goodbye, screaming that she totally knew he was just a rank 3 nobody. Allen stares at her like she has 0 brain cells, completely lost on why she looks so happy to see him leave. Fast forward a few days and the crew rolls up to Lartania, a massive labyrinth city built on pure filthy capitalism. Allen looks at the giant gates and realizes that in this town, cold hard cash is the only superpower that actually matters. They walk up to the front desk, but the guard totally loses his mind, screaming that he is sick of fake VIPs. The annoying dude demands a 3,000 gold coin entry fee, basically telling Alon he is way too broke to step inside. When Alon asks for the next open slot, the guard smirks and tells him to wait a solid 10 months. Before our hero can even process that massive disrespect, a fat, arrogant rich kid named Labard waddles up with his goons. This ugly son of the city lord points right at Alon and calls him a dirty beggar, ordering him to move his broke self out of the way. Just when things are about to get physical, Reen steps out looking like an absolute boss and tells the fat kid to get lost. Without skipping a beat, her personal muscle punches Labard straight in the mouth, sending a huge splash of blood flying everywhere. Reen ignores the crying rich boy, bowing her head and respectfully calling Alon her patron right in front of the absolute haters. Labard screams that he is royalty and threatens to ruin her life with his high-level political connections. Reen literally gives zero shucks, completely ignoring his pathetic tantrum, as she happily escorts her favorite guy through the massive front doors. Chilling on the fancy couches inside, Alon asks why she calls him patron instead of the usual godfather title the other kids use. Ryan smoothly replies that it fits his vibe best, leaving our boy feeling super proud of his green-haired moneymaker. He gets straight to business, asking his rich sugar daughter to use her massive influence to slide him into the outer god strike force. Rain admits things are a bit messy right now, but promises she can pull the right strings and tells him to go catch some sleep. After a long nap, Alon wakes up hungry and links up with Reen at the dining table, ready to hear about the big meeting. Reen casually serves breakfast and drops the absolute craziest bomb, telling Alon she completely murdered Labard without leaving a single trace. Our boy chokes on his food, sweating as he realizes she just assassinated the city lord's son like it was nothing. Renan shows a brutal flashback of her goons choking the fat guy out, explaining he was a total cancer who secretly ran dirty biological experiments. Alon looks visibly stressed, thinking his crazy adopted daughter is going way too far just to keep his vibe check clean. Reen looks slightly hurt by his worried face, so Alon quickly lies and says he just does not want his or getting put in danger. Moving past the casual murder, Reen takes Alon into a secret vault to show off her massive glowing tracker eye artifact. Alon recognizes the tool and realizes this little smart girl has been using it to scoop up all the hidden high-tier loot in the city. Her massive stash explains exactly why she is stupidly rich and throwing so much heavy weight around the local mafia. Finally getting down to business, Ryan walks him straight into the elite meeting room to face the top 5 guild leaders. But the second he walks in, a spicy cat girl named Miyamon points a finger right at his chest, calling him a total fraud, forcing Alon to crack his knuckles and humble these scrubs, and all the other squads brush him off like he is a useless rat. Because of this disrespect, our hero decides to show them his true strength. Ellen instantly drops the glory of the snowy lands, freezing the entire meeting room just to flex on the top 5 guild leaders. He needs these heavy-hitting mercenaries to carry him through an outer god raid, but his icy stunt totally backfires. The guild bosses instantly draw their swords, looking ready to chop our protagonist into absolute pieces for the massive disrespect. Alan's sweating inside, realizing he probably just triggered a massive boss fight by acting way too cocky, playing it cool like a total sociopath. Alan kicks back in his icy chair and smoothly asks if they can finally talk business. He remembers a specific quest line from his gaming days and knows exactly how to game the system without throwing hands. Argonia, the demon horn boss of the #1 guild, stares at him before suddenly telling her entire squad to stand down. She agrees to meet up tomorrow, completely stunning the blonde mercenary who desperately wanted to catch a free body. The second the doors close, Alan clutches his chest and basically has a heart attack, praying he never has to pull a stunt like that again. Meanwhile, the angry blonde guy demands to know why Argonia let this pretentious snob walk away without a scratch. Argonia brutally humbles him, explaining that Alan's icy flex would have literally flatlined them on the spot if he actually let it rip. The demon boss flashes back to her childhood, remembering a terrifying warning about a massive black eye in the sky. The Prasamarnher warned her to never look straight at a being with god-level caliber, and she just felt that exact same terrifying aura from Alan. The very next day, the tense strategy meeting goes smoother than butter, with all the guild leaders totally submitting to our boy's master plan. Alon is actually shocked that even the spicy cat girl Mion is sitting quietly while he drops fake ancient text lore from his gamer memory. With the squad locked in, the massive army of mercenaries finally kicks down the doors and starts their brutal descent into the labyrinth. They immediately start carving through the dungeon, violently turning a giant purple bird monster into fresh exotic poultry. Walking through the dark halls, Mion sidles up next to Alan and straight up asks if he wants to sleep with her. The spicy cat girl totally wants to get her paws on his heavy magic, offering to quietly take out Ryan so they can have some private time. Alon hits her with an instant rejection, realizing this unhinged beastfolk tribe literally just gets turned on by raw, violent power. By day 2, the raid party is completely exhausted, dragging themselves through the endless dungeon floors just to find the damn stairs. Alon complains that in the game this was a quick loading screen, but in reality he has to actually walk like a total peasant. They finally hit the 5th floor, a lush green safe zone where the tired mercenaries immediately drop their gear to touch some grass. Argonia notes they still have plenty of time since the outer god is supposed to be chilling way down on the 12th floor. Out of absolutely nowhere, a massive wind blade rips through the peaceful safe zone, turning a bunch of random mercenaries into instant red mist. The surviving fighters panic, screaming about a wild goblin attack, but the dust clears to reveal a floating green demon looking down on them. The monster arrogantly demands to know who gave these weak little roaches permission to look him straight in the eyes. Suddenly, our hero flexes his insane aura, sending a freezing shockwave through the grass that makes the entire front line start shaking in their boots. Aline glares up at the arrogant freak and instantly calls him out by his real name, Kairos, completely shocking the massive demon king. Our boy is internally screaming because this god-level boss was supposed to be at least 3 entire days away from this floor. Kairos chuckles at the handsome human knowing his lore and offers to spare their pathetic lives if they turn around and run away like good little dogs. Instead of backing down, Alun orders the entire squad to lock into battle positions, forcing Kairos to unleash a devastating green tornado straight at their faces. Kairos drops a massive wind blast like he owns the place. The mercenary squad tries to block it with their shiny weapons, but Kairos just laughs and calls their gear cute little toys. Our boy realizes his anti-magic trick actually works because this ugly green scrub is not fully loaded into the map yet. Knowing they have zero time to mess around, Alon starts spamming his heavy ice skills to form a giant frozen star. Right on cue, Ryan opens her glowing book and starts chanting like a total boss. Massive chains shoot out of the sky and trap the demon, setting the stage for a nasty combo. Alon charges up a massive ice crystal halberd, hoping this giant frozen stick gives the boss the absolute scare of his life. The huge ice spear flies right at Kairos, looking like a guaranteed one-shot kill. But the cocky demon just smirks and holds up a single green finger. Kairos casually shatters the giant ice spear with one tap, leaving Alon completely shook. The green boss calls him an insect, bragging that he missed his shot. Kairos admits his body is totally bugged out right now, but he decides to play with his food anyway. He claps his hands and drops a massive quake spell that literally flips the ground upside down. The mercenary crew goes flying like cheap ragdolls while the demon just laughs at their total lack of skill. Not done flexing, Kairos drops a giant green laser beam right on top of the squad. The squad barely dodges the massive blast, but the green freak instantly teleports right above them with a nasty smirk. He dives down for a brutal slam, but the spicy cat girl Mion suddenly jumps in to save her squad. Kairos looks super amused by her quick reflexes and asks what other cute tricks they have to keep him entertained. He is completely styling on the whole team like they are day one noobs. Alon starts having a total panic attack, realizing this green freak is actually using real magic signs. The gap in raw power is way too huge, and the whole raid is basically a massive failure. Desperate to survive, our boy chugs 5 entire mana potions back-to-back like a thirsty college kid on a wild Friday night. He throws up a massive spinning ice shield to block the endless hits, sweating and breathing heavy. His body starts rejecting the juice, hitting him with severe mana poisoning as he struggles to hold the line. Barely standing, Alon tells Ryan it is time to drop the hammer. Ryan instantly summons her heavy chains to tie the demon down one more time. Alon pushes his broken body to cast his snowy mountain spells, digging deep into his gamer brain for a cheat code. He grabs his head in pure agony, remembering the secret game rules about magic principles and raw essence. A glowing red eye flashes in his mind as he realizes the real trick is all about a simple hand sign. Erlen spins up a glowing ice spear, but Kairos gets super annoyed by the shiny light show. The green boss dashes past the chains and tries to wipe Ryan off the map. Erlen dives in like a true hero, taking the brutal hit right to his shoulder to save his girl. With his blood flying, our boy locks his fingers into the secret hand sign, turning his spear into a giant glowing key. He twists the icy lock and drops the ultimate ice crystal halberd, instantly freezing the entire battlefield into one massive, endless glacier. Kairos magic in this world runs on strict rules, but Alon just hacked the whole system with his ice crystal halberd. The massive spell freezes everything in its path, showing off a crazy display of pure power. The giant ice spikes suddenly explode into a million pieces, leaving our boy coughing up blood from the extreme kickback. He wipes his mouth knowing this heavy magic is way above his level, but he still got the job done. Kairos floats above the shattered ice, admitting his current physical body is just too weak to brush off that insane hit. The green demon smirks and tells Alon that excuses do not change reality. He actually compliments our hero, calling his ice trick an excellent answer before officially taking the massive L. Kairos completely shatters into glowing blue dust, fading out of the massive maze for good. The second the boss vanishes, all the energy leaves Alon's body and his eyes roll back into his head. He totally faceplants into the dirt, completely knocked out cold while the world finally goes quiet. Later on, Alon groans and opens his eyes, feeling a brutal headache splitting his skull. He realizes he is lying in a messy bed inside the camp, completely unable to feel his own legs. He knows chugging too many magic potions causes deadly poisoning, so he feels super lucky his heart did not completely stop. Ryan sits by his bedside and reports that the cat girl is healing fast, but the demon boss Argonia is barely hanging on to life. Out of nowhere, Ryan looks down and asks why he risked his own neck to save her when she was totally useless in the fight. Alon gets completely triggered, wondering why all his adopted kids think he only keeps them around as cheap tools. He violently coughs and tells the green-haired girl that he considers every single one of them real family. He smoothly says saving her was just natural, since she saved him first, telling her to just wish him a happy birthday if she really feels bad. Ryan gets super emotional, finally understanding that her boss actually genuinely cares about her life. 5 days later, Alon finally steps outside into the endless daylight, checking on the injured cat girl before the crew packs up. Stepping out of the giant doors, Yuban instantly starts screaming at Alon for looking like a total mummy. Our boy defends his choice to leave his one-eyed knight behind, knowing Yuban would have totally ruined his sneaky plans. While loading into the ride, Ryan asks when his actual birthday is, and Alon casually mentions it was September 20th. Ryan locks that date into her brain, totally obsessed with proving her worth to the only man who treats her right. She drops a crazy, unhinged smirk, deciding that handing him an entire giant castle would be a cute starter gift for her favorite daddy. Gator Winter finally hits the massive Palladio house, bringing heavy snow and some much-needed chill time. Alon kicks back on his sofa, letting his magic sickness fade away while looking at a mountain of boring papers. Yuban walks in carrying a glowing crystal ball straight from the Aldisa family, dropping it right on the desk. Luya's face pops up in the glass, dropping a polite bow and congratulating our hero for officially taking over the entire underworld. Alon completely freezes in absolute panic, realizing this crazy rich girl actually took his random offhand joke seriously. Taloria giggles like a menace, explaining that since he already bullied the top politicians, snatching the criminal turf was super easy. She casually asks if they should take out the actual king next, forcing Alon to quickly scream for her to just keep the peace. The call cuts out, leaving our boy crying over becoming a mafia boss overnight without even lifting a single finger. Just to make his headache worse, he spots a fancy red letter demanding his presence at a massive royal party. Later, he chills by a warm fire roasting sweet potatoes, randomly trying to remember what weird ancient words he chanted during that boss fight. Back on the 5th floor of the labyrinth, a mysterious figure in a black cloak floats over the shattered rocks. He feels the lingering energy and mutters that he had zero clue our boy Alon was packing this much heat. The shadowy dude stares straight up into a glowing design on the grass, totally impressed by the frozen destruction left behind. He drops a villainous smirk, already plotting how fun it will be to test the protagonist's skills the next time they accidentally cross paths. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Alon stares at the fancy red letter from the queen, sweating bullets about his upcoming royal visit. He checks his gaming stats, remembering that Cian Cretinia, the 8th monarch, holds a super overpowered skill called the Eye of History. Basically, this cheat code lets her download all the royal save data straight from her ancestors, giving her insane historical power. He remembers how she was a total beast in the game, temporarily joining the player's party and completely wrecking the bad guys. But Alon also knows she is a massive slacker who literally never leaves her bed, earning her the nickname Sleeping Dragon. He figures if he just acts super passive and lets her flex her authority, he can easily dodge any political heat from taking over the underworld. Far away in a dark forest, a sketchy hitman realizes his subordinate is already dead with a snapped neck. He starts screaming into his magic radio, completely throwing a tantrum that his lazy agency failed the mission and ruined his perfect kill streak. The dude is absolutely furious that Count Palladio is suddenly causing his precious agency's success rate to drop. The bald man decides to track down the one guy who knows the Count best, showing up outside a dark church in Caliburn. Deus is standing guard, completely masking his presence, but the bald freak spots him instantly with his creepy glowing eyes. Seeker demands to know all the juicy secrets about Alon, threatening to slice Deus in half if he does not spill the tea. Before he can even swing, thick sticky webs wrap around the entire area, and Deus drops from the ceiling like a totally unhinged spider. The string user completely wraps the assassin up, making Seeker panic as he realizes he just walked into a trap set by the ghost killer. Deus coldly stares down at the struggling bald guy, preparing to completely shred him for daring to ask questions about his beloved master. At the secret family meeting, Xiao Lang screams into the crystal ball that she wants to marry Alon, driving Yudi completely insane with jealousy. Ryan totally pulls rank, reminding the foxy girl that Yudi has been serving their great moon way longer than anyone else. Ryan calmly tries to start the meeting, asking to report on the tracker eye, but Yudia blocks her out of pure petty spite. Deirus finally cuts through the waifu war, casually dropping the bomb that he just localized a massive assassin agency and already deleted 3 of their guys. Xiao Lang gets totally unhinged, asking if she should cut off their heads or just tear them limb from limb. Radon suggests they gather some actual intel first, which instantly makes the crazy girls accuse him of being a massive traitor. Radon facepalms, frustrated that his entire squad is just a bunch of bloodthirsty fanboys who want to solve every problem with instant murder. He sighs, realizing his loyalty to Alon is normal while everyone else is literally treating the man like a straight-up cult leader. Finally, the big day arrives in the capital, and Alon steps out of his carriage looking like an absolute snack. Yuban watches proudly as the crowd parts for his boss, but then the rich snobs just totally ignore him and walk right past. Alon completely freezes up, totally lost, until he realizes the fancy nobles are actually forming an honor guard just to escort him inside. The royalist factions whisper their dirty little schemes, hoping the queen is about to verbally slap this new underworld boss right in the face. No, Alon takes a deep breath and marches down the massive red carpet, fully preparing himself to eat absolute dirt and play the humble victim. He drops to one knee in front of the gorgeous blonde-haired Queen Xian, officially introducing himself while she lounges like a total queen. The haters sneer, totally convinced that Kalpa is about to get completely crushed by royal decree. The Queen Xian lounges on her throne, looking like an absolute goddess while dropping the craziest plot twist of the century. She literally promotes Alon from a basic count all the way up to a marquis, right on the spot. Our boy completely short-circuits, turning blue and sweating because this massive jump in rank makes zero logical sense. The queen smirks, claiming it is his grand reward for cleaning up the rotting underworld, completely ignoring the fact she never cared about crime before. Alon starts having a massive internal panic attack, realizing this crazy blonde lady is just flexing her unhinged power. He bows his head lower, totally stressing that she could probably delete his entire faction whenever she feels like it. Shidon suddenly leans down from her throne, brushing his chin with her finger, and tells him to stop looking so depressed. She purrs that a smile suits him much better, totally leaving our boy stunned and blushing like a high school freshman. With that final flirt, she casually ends the royal meeting and struts out of the hall, leaving the entire court completely gagged. The second the doors close, the royalist snobs immediately swarm Alon, sucking up to the new marquis like thirsty little groupies. Even Kalia looks totally impressed, whispering to Loria that their guy just pulled off the ultimate political heist. Meanwhile, an older noble glare at him with pure hatred, completely furious that this upstart just stole the entire royal spotlight. Cut to a dark, gross alleyway in Ashtalon where Duke Rimgrave is literally crawling on the floor, absolutely broke and destroyed. He screams into the night, furious that he spent a whole month getting tortured in a holy prison while Alon got a royal promotion. Desperate for revenge, the ruined politician knocks on a sketchy door and demands to speak to the local mafia boss. The door violently swings open, revealing a terrifying hybrid beast girl standing over a massive pile of fresh, bloody corpses. The beast girl smiles like a total psycho while Rimgrave violently shakes, completely disgusted by the raw, brutal slaughter. He quickly tries to hire her to assassinate Alon. The beast girl just laughs right in his face, kicking a bloody severed head and telling him he is way too late. She casually reveals that this messy pile of meat was actually the entire underworld agency he was trying to hire. Rumgrave completely loses his mind, crying and screaming that he is a royal marquis as the girl slowly steps closer. She mocks his pathetic begging, flashing a terrifying smile as she promises to reunite him with his dead little agency. A massive golden lightning claw completely shreds the old man, ending his sad, ruined life in one brutal strike. The scene shifts back to Alon and Yuban standing outside a destroyed mansion hidden deep inside a massive cave. A week later, Alon finally escapes the exhausting royal party, stuffing his face with cake just to survive the stress. He hops in his carriage with Yuban, heading toward a creepy forest right on the edge of the desert. Our boy mentions he needs to hit up the Kahala ruins next to activate that crazy item Heinkel gave him. Yeben spots a massive cave mansion and Alon smirks, realizing they just found a free gold mine waiting to be looted. But a few hours earlier, a cocky dude named Alchemy was talking massive trash to a creepy goth girl holding a glowing staff. He tells her that he is a legendary killer from 300 years ago, but suddenly Yudi absolutely deletes the guy with a single violent strike, leaving the boss dead and the mansion completely empty. Back in the present, Yeben asks if this trash base is really the secret gold mine Alon was looking for. Alon smirks like an absolute menace, explaining that since the original mafia boss got deleted, all this shiny loot is totally free. The two guys quickly bag up the heavy gold coins, completely shocked that life just handed them an easy payday. After securing the massive bag, they jump back into the carriage and head out toward their next major destination. Arriving at the Golden Desert, Xiaolang instantly jumps onto Alon like a thirsty golden retriever, screaming for her benefactor. They ride together in the carriage, but Alon notices the foxy girl is acting weirdly distant from her own squad. He remembers the brutal betrayal she suffered from Rauda, feeling bad for the heavy trauma still weighing her down. Deciding to be a good dad, he promises to grant her a quick favor just to cheer up his favorite clingy fox. Xiaolang gets super hyped and instantly slams a piece of paper onto his lap, begging him to sign it right there. Alon reads the document and completely freezes in pure shock, realizing this crazy girl just handed him a fully legal marriage certificate. The foxy girl smiles, blushing super hard with lipstick ready, demanding he officially make her his wife right in the back of the carriage. The scene opens in the dark Ashtalon kingdom where a wavy-haired boss complains his entire agency just vanished into thin air. He asks how things are looking in Asteria, and finds out all their top-tier recruits have been deleted too. A pink-haired grunt kneels on the floor, begging for forgiveness because Kalpa snatched up all the power before they could blink. The boss smiles gently and says there is absolutely no need to apologize right before blasting the guy with a dark magic execution. The absolute loser screams as his body gets cracked open and dragged to the Shadow Realm for failing his basic job. The The boss calls his maid Ingula out to clean up the messy dead body on the floor. He then takes a walk down to his creepy basement to check on Lord Carmine, who is trapped inside a glowing green tube. The boss roasted him, saying the guy went totally insane because his weak little body could not handle the Abyss power upgrade. He complains about losing his perfect guinea pigs, mentioning that his old experiment Kalman was actually a total success story. A flashback hits showing Kalman getting a purple power boost while two dudes brag about taking over the underworld soon. Tao. Back in the past, Kalman asks who is annoying his master, and gets shown a picture of our boy. Cutting back to the present, the wavy-haired boss admits he totally underestimated the Count's ridiculous power levels. He tells his shadowy hitman to keep a close eye on the colony and spread some nasty rumors to shake up Alon's street cred. The boss smiles like an absolute menace, plotting to use the desperate nobles to completely expand his own dark influence. He claims this dirty little scheme is for the good of everyone, proving he is a top-tier toxic manipulator. The scene shifts to the carriage where Seolang is panting and looking completely feral, begging Alon to start a family. Our hero sweats bullets because this crazy foxy girl is literally trying to trap him with a highly detailed legal marriage contract. He knows he cannot just reject her and hurt her feelings, so he gently pats her head and tells her to wait until she is older. Seolang asks how long and Alon pulls a random number out of his hat, telling her to come back in 2 years when she is mature. She smiles brightly and agrees, leaving Alon praying she just forgets about her intense daddy issues by then. They finally pull up to the Forgotten Ruins and Alon asks if she minds waiting outside. Seolang happily agrees to watch his back, letting our protagonist walk alone into the massive central tower to meet a total stranger. Inside the dark room, a glowing circle lights up, and a shadow dragon woman with black horns drops down to say hello. She is completely shocked that a basic human can even see her, realizing that beating an outer god actually boosted his raw aura. She admits she fully expected him to die, and Alon casually agrees that he basically almost got folded like a cheap lawn chair. Alon knows his mana is running on empty, but he locks in anyway and starts chanting his heavy snow mountain spell. A massive ice halberd shoots up and explodes with a giant crash, leaving the cocky dragon girl completely speechless and staring. Alon calls her out for faking her ignorance about spirit projection. She crosses her arms and pouts, demanding to know how he actually cast the spell without the right mental foundation. Alon explains he just memorized the basic rules and twisted the fancy words around to make the magic work his own way. The dragon girl explains that real magic sentences need a spirit projection to engrave the laws into a person's actual memory. Our boy realizes his brain works completely backward from normal mages, forcing him to learn everything the hard way instead of following instructions. Right in the middle of their deep nerd talk, the dragon woman starts glitching out as her rental time completely expires. Before vanishing, she tells Alon to hunt down Sparrow's staff if he wants to properly record those spicy magic words. She warns him the staff belongs to a total lunatic who shoved his own personality into the weapon, making it super stubborn. She fades away completely, promising that if he secures the staff, he will finally have enough power to push the dark forces back. Alon stands alone and realizes the staff is locked tight inside the royal treasury, meaning he has to go win a massive fighting tournament. The scene transitions back to the bright sunny streets, where Alon and Seolang are stuck in massive annoying traffic. Alon decides to stretch his legs, stepping out into a giant crowd filled with heavily armored paladins walking around. Suddenly, a soft voice calls out to him, and he turns around to see a gorgeous girl in a black dress staring at him. He recognizes those intense red eyes instantly and realizes it is Yui, looking like an absolute premium snack. She grabs his hands warmly. Our boy Alon stares at a crowd going absolutely feral over Yui. A random kid hypes up the pretty saintess, but Yui corrects him with a sweet smile, demanding to be called Your Eminence. Alon slides up to his crazy adopted kid, and they decide to take the chat somewhere private. Seolang violently nods her head, basically barking like a loyal dog to lead them straight to the guild headquarters. The scene shifts to a bouncy carriage ride where Yuban drops massive lore about Yudia's crazy new job. He explains a cardinal from Rosario is basically the top boss right under the Pope and can literally start holy wars. Alon is completely shook, realizing his little shadow monster just finessed her way into massive holy authority. He secretly celebrates having a rich sugar daughter backing his plays before they finally step into the fancy guild base. Inside the shiny room, Seolang tells everyone to chill and she instantly jumps onto the sofa right next to Alon. Yudi glares at the fox like a jealous ex-girlfriend until Alon asks if she has business in the colony. Yudi flips a switch, acting totally innocent, and blushes while announcing her massive holy promotion in person. Alon thinks her angelic smile makes her look like a pure saint, completely forgetting she is a literal walking disaster. Our hero remembers her absolutely terrifying monster face, realizing her innocent act is a massive trap. Seolang ruins the peace by whispering that Yudi only came here because she is totally thirsty for their godfather. Yudi drops the holy act, threatening the foxy girl with secret directives until Seolang forces a fake, sweaty bestie hug. Right on cue, Seolang shamelessly brings up Alon's promise to marry her in exactly 2 years. Yuya completely loses her mind, trying to gaslight Alon into saying he only promised the marriage under extreme duress. She tells the fox she is way too young for a ring, but Seolang claps back, calling Yui a dusty old hag. Yui claims she is only 2 years older, causing Seolang to scream that Ren exposed her for being 1,000 years old. The floor literally explodes, dropping the loudmouth fox straight into the basement while Yui calmly blames bad construction. The scene cuts outside to the carriage where Yui acts perfectly normal and says a polite goodbye. Alon mentions he needs to hit the arena to snatch up Sparrow's staff, and Yui offers to pull some royal strings. Our boy declines, and the very next day Seolang flexes her VIP street cred to instantly skip the massive gladiator line. Alon grabs his new F-rank tag, thanking the universe he brought his clingy fox along to handle the annoying paperwork. 2 days later, the arena announcer hypes up a massive bloody free-for-all deathmatch with a giant crowd. All the F-rank scrubs gang up on Alon, thinking he is an easy target with a massive bounty on his back. Our hero decides he does not have time for this circus, swapping his single target style for a giant area nuke. He drops a freezing crystal bomb, completely wiping out every single gladiator in the ring with one ridiculous hit. The announcer screams his name as Alon gets an instant promotion to D rank while the crowd goes absolutely crazy. After the fight, in a hallway, Alon drops to his knees clutching his chest, sweating bullets because that giant blast completely emptied his mana tank. Yerbin walks up praising his boss and hands over a shiny purple box that Udia secretly mailed over. Alon opens it to find the exact skeletal staff he wanted, touched that his oldest daughter just hooked him up. The next day, Alon chills in his room and pumps his dark mana straight into the staff to wake it up. The skull's mouth flashes red, and it instantly starts talking, calling the ancient magic rules a total joke. The staff refuses to teach him any spells and tells our boy to leave him alone. Yuiban bursts into the room announcing that an arrogant A-rank gladiator just challenged Alon to a random duel. Alon is totally confused why a high-tier fighter wants beef with a D-rank nobody, calling the guy completely shameless. He quickly realizes this is a free ticket to skip the ranks, grinning at the chance to embarrass a top dog. Turning back to the stubborn staff, Alon offers to make a spicy bet if the skull does not believe his skills. The skeletal staff laughs, totally down for the entertainment, setting up a brutal showdown for the arena. The very next day, our boy Alon struts into the dusty arena to settle a spicy little bet. He steps up as a basic D-rank rookie, ready to clap a loudmouth A-rank gladiator named Pearson. This rowdy meathead screams at the crowd, desperate to beat our hero and skyrocket his own clout. Pearson totally thinks Alon is just a basic ice user and instantly blasts him with some heavy fire magic. Our protagonist just smirks, dodging the sweaty flames with blinding speed by switching his whole vibe to pure lightning. Pearson totally panics, realizing his easy win just turned into a nightmare. Alon decides to stop playing with his food and drops a crazy spell to literally fuse his body with raw lightning. He turns into a glowing god of thunder, completely styling on the loudmouth scrub. With one massive flashy strike, Astalon electrocutes Pearson into absolute crispy chicken wings, snatching the easy victory. The crowd goes completely feral, while our boy stands there looking like a premium snack with a bloody nose. Walking out of the ring, Astalon mentally freaks out because that crazy spell almost deleted his entire existence. He realizes that turning his physical body into pure magic is basically playing Russian roulette with his life. The slightest wrong move would have scattered his ashes like cheap party fireworks all over the arena. Back in his room, Seolang hovers over him, super worried and begging to pump him full of sticky recovery potions. Dalin gently pats the foxy girl to calm her down, realizing he actually won his ridiculous bet against a magic skull. The scene switches to a carriage ride as Alon and Seolang head straight for the royal castle. Our boy secretly thanks her, knowing her heavy street cred got him instant VIP access to the king's shiny vault. Alon pulls out a creepy skull staff and uses his mind powers to casually bully the ghost trapped inside. But the staff begging Alon to sign a dirty little contract, Alon violently rejects the trap, telling the dusty boomer he needs to chat with the dragon lady first. Whereon they roll up to the fancy palace, and Alon casually drops to one knee to greet the king of colony. King Carmaxes praises the easy arena win and finally grants our boy full access to his shiny royal treasury. Out of nowhere, the king tries to push his own daughter onto Alon, offering her up like a free side dish. Alon just politely dips out, following a guard down to the massive treasure room to pick his one free prize. After digging around, he snatches up a dusty old sword called the Oath of the Blindfolded One and heads back upstairs. Astalon walks back in to show off his new toy, but the king and Seolang are both acting super sketchy. The sweaty monarch suddenly takes his daughter off her back. Walking out, Astalon asks his foxy girl what really went down, but she just flashes an innocent, totally fake smile. A quick flashback reveals the dark truth. Seolang had actually threatened the king with massive, unhinged murder intent to protect her man. The scene jumps to the palace throne room, where Yudi steps inside wearing her spicy new cardinal outfit, looking ready to cause problems. She drops the sweet saint act entirely, her face turning ice cold as she stares down the sweaty monarch. The king instantly starts shaking, realizing this crazy white-haired psycho is not here for a friendly chat. Yudi demands answers about some little secrets, her red eyes glowing with pure toxic energy.